Some of the content of Patriots Unfiltered may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
The world's original podcast.
Welcome to Patriots Unfiltered.
There's a chance that the Cleveland guys just know how to coach line play. They had great lines in Cleveland for the 4 years that Alex Van Pelt was there. The strike system and all these little things that they do.
Need a tutorial on that later.
In Cleveland.
In fairness, I didn't watch. I haven't seen any of the one-on-ones.
You're not.
I'm watching.
You don't have the Sunday ticket with the Cleveland Browns.
Strike system, different things.
You know what my strike system is? Strike first, strike hard, no mercy.
Cobra Kai.
Right? I can't wait to hear my jingle.
Oh, we're still doing that? I have a jingle now too, though. So.
Do you? He's sneaky territorial.
Yeah. If we were close, we'd give Judon the boat with the bag. But maybe
The boat had another horrific drop near the sideline. Did you guys
I
see?
guffawed at that one.
I
guffawed.
First off,
Brand.
Paul, love you, man. Thank you for making me a better person.
That sounded sarcastic.
This is Patriots Unfiltered.
Presented by Toyota's official website for deals, buyatoyota.com.
All right, welcome to Patriots Unfiltered. It is Thursday here at Gillette Stadium. The Patriots are back on the field practicing. No pads today, but they were out. From what I saw, it was a pretty good tempoed practice. Very hot. I would say temperatures are in the 90s down there.
Definitely the hottest day of camp.
Sun's out, no shade. So good day for conditioning. They did do a lot of running even before practice, but I would say, a decent practice from what I saw, but obviously we're going to get into it. Matt Judon was back on the field, so I assume somebody sat down and had a talk with somebody. And
Jerod Mayo had a talk with Matthew Judon. He told us before practice.
And made clear what the expectations were if you're going to be out there. And he was out there participating fully. So all's well right now.
Yeah, we'll see tomorrow when pads come on.
In Patriots Nation,
That's a great point.
Because everything was good the first 4 days.
Yeah.
When pads came on.
Yeah.
And it wasn't so good.
Yeah.
I would be surprised to see anything resembling what we saw Monday.
Yeah.
Again, I'd be very surprised.
Oh, yeah. But I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see him participating.
Well,
Just not out
that
there.
to me is something like Monday. Not as disrespectful.
Yeah.
But
Right.
I'm expecting him to participate on Friday.
Devon Godchaux had his deal announced yesterday, so that's one down, one to go.
Yeah, Judon, good to see him back out there, but I am interested to see. But it felt to me like maybe things are moving in the right direction, and like they know it's going to get done. Hopefully, I mean I think next practice, if he's out there, maybe that's a good sign. But it'd be nice to just resolve this. I think the longer it hangs over the team, the more of a distraction it is. And he was kind of back out there today, but not his usual self. Not out there throwing balls to all the fans or any of that stuff. He just kind of was there, doing his job, being in the drills. So we'll see where it's going.
But I will say one change from the first 4 days. I thought all the positional drills, all the pre-practice stuff, he was sort of last. And usually guys of that stature lead off those drills,
Yep.
And today he was leading off the drills. And then when they went to, full team, he was out there. 7-on-7, he was out there. So he was taking all the reps and doing all the things today. I think that is a good sign that maybe he doesn't have to be happy about it, but he understands that this is what you have to do. And we'll try to get a resolution, but what you did on Monday was unacceptable. And Jerod talked about it. Someone asked him, sort of pointedly, did the fact that Godchaux, had sort of been here and put the pads on and took part in the 11s, does that help his cause? And Mayo admitted, yeah, it does. And so I wonder if that was part of the message to Judon.
Okay. What else? So
Big red zone day. I think that's the headline of it. It was just a lot of red zone work, and that's something usually we were used to starting there when Belichick was running practices. And today we finally got there. There was still some middle of the field stuff, but things predictably got a little bit tougher. I don't know. You guys can weigh in. I thought it was all kind of similar. There's certainly the offense is, they're making some plays. It's not a disaster for them. And Drake May made a couple plays, and I thought he, one particular play looked like he audibled to something, and was able to get the ball out quick. And he had a couple nice plays too. Joe Milton, again, doesn't get a lot of chances, but he's making the most of it.
I didn't see as much from Milton today on platform, on time.
Yeah,
I thought there was some times that his athleticism is just so immense. He moves around and buys time. May, on the other hand, I thought there were a couple of those Patriots plays today, that we joke around about. That looks like a play. Hard play action, turn, back foot, balls out, 15-yard out to Mitchell Wilcox, right?
That's
So-
right, Paul. Good.
I had to remember that one.
One of your guys,
So I like that.
one
I
of
thought
your
there was
guys,
some
Paul,
signs.
Phil Perry,
One of my guys.
said
He
that
is one of
Drake
my
May
guys.
had more good throws in this practice than he had in the last 3 practices. Now,
So,
that might
yeah.
not be saying much.
No, and I don't
Yeah.
like I said, I try not to get bogged down in the numbers and the stats. I don't chart every play. I write them all down just to sort of remember, what happened and who the ball was intended for, who was in coverage and stuff like that. But I did think that there were more moments today that I thought that looked normal, that looked good, and they weren't always successful. Matter of fact, he threw a nice crosser to Jalen Polk, and you'd like to see, a nice clean catch. It was sort of a double clutch.
Yep.
Then the next play, he's got Douglas sort of coming over the middle, open, and he sailed it over his head. So still, I don't want to say everything was perfect and all that worrying about Drake. No.
Yeah.
But I thought there was more normalcy to the game today.
There was.
I thought for him
Yeah.
than we've seen.
And then we have Colin Coward, who looked into the
Now we're
camera,
going Colin Coward.
who looked into the camera and said, "Don't be surprised if Joe Milton wins this job." He actually said that.
So I don't really even think that deserves conversation.
I mean, you got 4 reps. I mean, I don't know. It's just like at a certain point, you're just
And
watching
two of them, he
Brissett
ran around for
and
20
May,
minutes.
and Brissett and May, and okay, here you go, Joe. Here's 4 for you, and okay,
Although,
and then
did you notice there weren't a lot of plays, period, today? I mean, most of the practice was that whatever you want to call the extended, first day of high school football practice.
Yeah.
We can't hit. We're just going to go out there and do our calisthenics and it was over an hour
Yeah.
of warm-up.
yeah, it was. I mean, I said to Evan too. Even when they got into the red zone, it was 3 reps for Jacoby,
Three
and
plays
3.
here, 3 plays here, 4 plays here, 4 plays
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
And then you're right. Then Zappy would come in. Then
Yeah,
it'll be
but-
3 plays. Then Milton would go in.
But I think Milton and Zappy each got one team period, and that was it. The mop up the 3rd rep. So I don't know. It's
Well, if you look at the cadence of the practices, they were off yesterday. They come back in shells today. Probably what we're going to see tomorrow and Saturday, obviously, is going to be in pads, but they're going to start ramping it up even more than the pads practice that we had before. Maybe we'll see goal line with some actual hitting.
Oh, that'd be great.
Well,
You know?
I just think, Fred, the next 2 days probably going to be in pads, and this is kind of it for training camp. I mean, this is we have 2 practices Monday, Tuesday next week. I'm sure there'll probably be something in there, but there's also going to be a large portion of those 2 practices that are guys on cards, guys getting ready to run plays. Some of the backups getting ready. Especially the Tuesday practice. So I just think the next 2 days are really vital to this team. I think they really would ideally like to. Just take that
Mike
next step.
Dussault calling the next 2 days make or break.
Yeah.
News at
it's-
11.
No, but it's fun. I mean, this is these 2 this week, and then a joint practice, and that's it. I mean,
Yeah.
we're kind of done with training camp after these next 2 days.
Yeah, I feel like the Joe Milton conversation is exactly what we talked about in May, which is that he looks like Captain America on a football field. I mean, the guy's 6'5", 230, 235, and has a cannon arm. So there's going to be a lot of people, and this is what we said. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to come out to these practices, and they're going to look at it, and they're going to say, one's a really big dude that's mobile with a cannon arm, and the other's a really big dude that's mobile with a cannon arm. And it's just going to be, which one you feel like completed more passes that day is going to all of a sudden be the better quarterback. And that's exactly how I feel what has happened so far with Drake May and Joe Milton. But I agree with what you guys were saying about Drake May. I thought today was a step forward for him, a better day.
Better day.
Mentally, it seemed like pre-snap, knowing where his eyes are supposed to go, answers, things like that. It was a little bit more fluid, and he got the ball out a little bit faster, and that allowed him to shine a little bit more. But overall, I just feel like the whole conversation between those 2 guys is, to a layman, you come out here at practice and you watch them both throw a football. Joe Milton's arm is incredible. It's incredible. There's no other way to put it.
That one throw, I think it was his last rep, where it was same thing. He scrambled, and then he just absolutely unleashed. Even Zoe was like, "Whoa!" It was, "Whoa, buddy!" It was full display of what Milton can do. And in short range, the receiver had no chance.
Yeah,
So you
the
guys
deep
know
ball.
me. I don't like to say I told you so or anything. So
What?
Colin Cowherd saying that don't be surprised if he's the starter. No one could have foreseen that happening.
Well, we all knew that was going to happen.
Oh, did we all?
The question was it a
Did
dumb?
we all, or was I?
No, the question was
I finger wagged
no.
for that?
The question was it a dumb move by the Patriots to draft him because it hurts Drake May?
I don't think
That
we know
was the
the
question.
I don't think we know the answer to that yet because we don't know Drake May. If this
Right.
affects him mentally or
Right,
not.
right.
And I did notice a little bit today. No backflips. And
Did you see him fake a couple?
Yeah, and
I saw Jacoby fake one, which was pretty good.
I can't, he was doing those backflips when they were doing the into the throws into the net, and every time he'd hit one, he'd backflip, and the crowd would go crazy. And today it was a little bit more subdued. Like he wasn't necessarily
no
doing
backflips, no Judon playing catch. Maybe Jerod's saying, "Hey, listen, we got work to do. Let's focus on that." Maybe, he gave them a little leash. And maybe he's pulling that leash back a little bit. I don't know.
Well, to be clear, my fear on the thing was the unnecessary noise it would create.
Yeah, and that it would hurt Drake May.
And we have noise.
Yeah,
that's all.
No, listen.
That's my
but
fear.
I agree
My fear
with
was that it would create unnecessary noise
right,
for a third
and
overall
it will
pick.
help hurt Drake May. But
I said it might hurt.
I never
Drake May. I didn't say it
Paul,
would.
I never disagreed there would be noise.
I just said it was inviting unnecessary distraction.
But
you got it.
We've had that over the years with these backup quarterbacks, and with a guy
I know.
like Joe Milton, of course it's going to happen.
I know we have had it over the years. That's why I thought it might happen again.
But the question is, will it be to the detriment of Drake May? That's the question.
That's not my question. My question is creating unnecessary distractions.
For who?
The team.
The thing I underestimate is that literally one person has the power to start that all. I mean, there's one person writing about Joe Milton right now, right? I haven't seen anybody else.
Well, evidently Colin Cowherd.
Colin Cowherd.
He did say that.
So where do you
Don't
think
be
he got
surprised if he
that?
starts.
He did say that.
From someone who was at practice? Because Colin Cowherd hasn't been at practice.
Oh, God.
So
he did say
it doesn't take much. It just
But
takes
anyway,
one person to light a match and walk away.
I think the bottom line is I agree with the panel, and I thought it was a better day for May today.
Yeah, I would say a couple things that stood out to me were just continuing to chart some of the personnel usage. It's just Juju's not getting chances. Like, he's not really out there much. Like, I think I had him for 3 reps in 11-11. Meanwhile, you've got 80, 83, that's Booty and Rager. They're out there a bunch. 1 and 2 and 6 are getting their share of reps. And Thornton, too, who, I'll let Paul kind of talk about him a little bit. But, it's just Juju doesn't seem in the conversation.
That was an off-air conversation. I told you that was an off-air conversation.
Just you thought he's been doing okay?
Now you're raising expectations. I said you're not allowed to throw this back in my face, but I think he's been their best receiver.
I thought I interpreted that as if he's not good this year, you're not allowed to come back and be like, you thought he was good.
I think
if he's done well, you say it.
No, I think he has done well. I think that they have. We talked about this on Tuesday. They have a lot of different receivers who flash at different times.
Yeah.
I think none of them has really flashed consistently. I think closest to that has been Thornton. And he had a couple more really good reps in the red zone today against Christian Gonzalez. And it wasn't in the full team work, so I always sort of, take those with a little bit of a jaundiced eye. I don't necessarily think it's the same. But I think he consistently gets open, and he did. He made a really good inside move for a quick out in the red zone, full teamwork, and unfortunately the ball went to the other side.
Let me ask you a question. Does it help a guy like Tyquan Thornton, who's in his 3rd year now, to have new coaches who really, Mayo's obviously, but they didn't experience the last 2 years for him? And so this is kind of like a fresh start for him with these coaches?
Yeah,
can't hurt.
I think schematically too it helps because this offense is really an offense that's going to give him a lot of chances to win foot races coming across the field on those play action plays. They always have some sort of post or deep over or clear out route that if you get vertical on it and the safety jumps the underneath route, now you're 1-on-1 with a ton of space, a ton of green grass. You're 4-2-8 and a lot of space. You might be able to wiggle free every once in a while and not to consistently crap on the last quarterback, but you have quarterbacks now too that can throw the ball down the field. And now some of those deep throws that maybe he wasn't getting targeted on, but he had a step or half a step of separation. Now you have guys that can actually get the ball or want to push the ball down the field, not just can, but want to, and that's a part of their game. So he's been good. I I can't sell myself on it, like, because I had to see it happen.
Because you've seen the last 2 years.
I already chastised myself.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be able to sleep with myself.
It's and fair enough. But that's kind of my point.
It's just so
we know
rare.
His history.
It's so rare that at that position in particular, that all of a sudden the light bulb goes on in the third year. Like,
especially in like now.
Yeah.
Like it happened before. Like I always throw Eric Moulds out there. Eric Moulds is an example of that. It was like 2 years of kind of nothing.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden he turned out to be a really good player for Buffalo. But I think in this era, that's got to be even more rare.
Well, I think it's kind of a unique first 2 years too, considering the coaching staff he was playing under. Certainly his rookie year, and he got hurt, and So
I will just say, like, I feel like he had 2 pretty good training camps before this. So it doesn't really mean anything until you see it for real. I think he had a promising start, and then he got the collarbone injury in the preseason game. And then I thought he was playing pretty well. You guys told me in Green Bay he was making some plays, and that's when he got hurt.
He literally got hurt catching
a deep ball.
Yeah.
So it's not like we haven't seen flashes in camp.
Oh, no.
Yeah. He does seem a little stronger. I feel like the contact doesn't bother him quite as much. Like at the catch point when guys are crowding him, it doesn't seem to knock him off his rail quite as often. But I don't know if that's the physicality in camp versus a physicality in a game. It's a different thing. And he caught a slant in front of Alex Austin today, and Austin tapped him down. But in a real game setting, you got to get him to the ground, and that's a whole different animal. And if he doesn't get him to the ground, then that's one broken tackle, and he's gone to the house. So you see some of those.
That was early, right?
Yeah.
He was. I think he was goodbye. On
that
play.
Yeah. It was, some of that physicality in his running. We could always glide. He always was a fast glider, but now I do see a little bit more strength to his game. But it has to happen in a game in the regular season.
Any of you doctors in the house want to give us an injury update with players?
Well, we saw, Marty Mapu continues to just kind of come out halfway through practice and watch, and he looks pretty sad about it. Josh Bledsoe's been in a red jersey, and he actually left today.
Sean Wade.
Yep. Sean Wade. And then otherwise, Andrews was back today. I think we mentioned that one.
Yeah, they're missing 4 players.
Peppers was out there.
Obviously, Barmore, Peppers, Mapu, and there was one, Jaheim Bell.
Yeah.
Didn't practice.
And Wheatley was a new absence.
Tyrone
Wheatley, the left tackle.
Wheatley today, yes.
Yeah,
correct.
so we're wondering he's been kind of struggling to, I don't know, I saw a couple of his one-on-ones, and it looked like he wasn't able to kind of.
He can't move. Like, I watched him do a lap the other day, and it's obviously much more difficult for those offensive linemen. It was a struggle for him.
Yeah.
And we didn't see him today.
And Vidarian Lowe getting
left
a look
tackle
at left tackle
for Caden Wallace today.
Okay.
Yeah.
And can we get an update on the strike system?
Well, I just quickly on Andrews. He did say at his press conference after practice that it was personal reasons that he missed the last couple practices, so nothing physical or anything like that.
I mean, I don't know if you heard him. Like, he went into some detail. Like
his kid's sick.
Yeah, his young baby was sick, and he wanted only because he wanted to shout out the nurses, the ER nurses, the ICU nurses at Hasbro, where he is. They've been wonderful to him, and he wanted to give them some credit. So
it seemed like he didn't really participate that much, though. It still seemed like he started in the 11s, and then he came out and Leverett went in. Yeah,
I thought
it still seemed like Mafi was consistently snapping to May.
The second group.
We saw a little bit of that with Judon too, where he would take 1 rep in 11 on 11s, then immediately off the field.
Are we still looking at Wallace on the left and Corafor?
Well, today it was Vidarian Lowe on the left, so we'll see.
You really hurt my feelings sometimes.
Why?
You just don't listen. Mike just said Vidarian Lowe.
All right. Okay.
Wallace just kicked down to the second group. Still at left tackle, though, I believe. So Calvin
when
Anderson
producers don't listen.
Is
that what you want now, a producer?
It did seem like maybe Vidarian Lowe, Caden Wallace being at left tackle for Drake May might have helped a little bit. Like, not to have a line of all backups that are guys that project as backups.
See, I didn't really even think of that. And that's the kind of thing that coaches, when they bristle at you just saying, well, blah, 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 blah. It could be a very logical reason like that.
They know the context.
They wanted to do it like that and make it maybe a little bit less obvious that we're just kind of giving him a different line.
Yeah.
I think he struggled in 11s on Tuesday, Caden Wallace. So I think that was probably more why. But I think they're going to continue to mix and match. It's kind of what Jerod told me back in the summer, the early part of the summer. I think they're going to keep on looking for guys. But Caden Wallace is probably a guy that's going to be part of the mix.
Okay.
Yeah, and just one more thing on Drake. I don't know if you talked about the throw that you and I were begging him to throw it.
Oh,
but
no.
He got outside the pocket and he was rolling to his right. And Juju looked like he might have had a step on the corner. And I thought that Drake May was going to throw one of those off-platform bombs. And he pulled it down and just ran with it instead. And I was like, in my head, I'm just like, why didn't he? He throws that in college, doesn't even think of it and just throws it. And I made note of it that maybe I don't know, maybe they're trying to get him to not do that kind of stuff.
Deuce
right
really
now.
loved the cross his body no look pass.
To KJ Osborne.
Yeah,
that was a pretty one.
I didn't like that one.
You're gonna have to get used to those because he's gonna do that. And then they also ran a couple of read option plays too with him in the run game where I was excited because maybe not in the open field, but when you get down to the goal line, he can do that and he can score on his own untouched. So you're not worried about him getting hit at that point. And so it seems like they're starting to put some of those things in too.
Okay. Well, sounded like a productive practice leading into tomorrow's pads.
Yeah, it was hot. I think it was a little
For a
challenging.
non-padded practice, it wasn't bad, I would say.
Yeah, no, I
usually
was
the
expecting
non-padded
less.
ones I lose interest in 10 minutes in, but
I was saying to
it was
Evan
all right.
too that the difference between practice this year is it felt like you'd have a good competitive period that you took a lot from, and then it would be kickoff for a little bit, and you'd always have those interstitial special teams periods that broke it up, and now it's like 7s, 11s in the middle, 11s low reds. I mean,
there
it's
was
just
a lot of special teams today, though.
Yeah, but I don't know.
Kickoffs,
It just felt,
returns.
there was more, but I don't know. I just feel like it's more grouped together. I felt like at the end.
I noticed they were devoting at times one field to special teams, and they would still do whatever they had to do on the other field. It wasn't like, the whole practice stopped and okay, now we're doing special teams.
Yeah.
A couple things on the kickoff. They worked on it again. Nothing really out of the ordinary. They were traditionally kicking the ball. I think the league. Put it like we've seen them sort of experiment with ball placement on the tee. Side. You can't do that. Evidently, the league has put something in. It needs to be a certain height if you're gonna, depending on how you situate the ball. So some of that stuff is.
So you think people were thinking, put it a different way, lower trajectory or something like that?
Something,
get the ball there faster.
So the league has sort of stepped in on that. And then Florio talked about it yesterday. I don't think people remember when it first came out, all of the different restrictions on onside kicks.
Yeah.
You basically can't onside kick anymore.
Right.
You can't onside kick ever if you're leading. You can't onside kick ever in the first 3 quarters of the game, and you have to tell people that you're onside kicking.
Yeah.
So there's no more surprise onside kick.
That doesn't seem right.
No.
Yeah.
No. But it's dynamic. What
What
a waste of time.
That's what they're calling it. They're actually calling it the dynamic kickoff rule or whatever.
Which is
yeah,
so silly.
So tonight,
I heard you were the voice of reason yesterday.
Yeah.
It's the word on the street.
Yeah,
it's the word on the street, Freddie.
Usually I am. But tonight is the Hall of Fame game. So who's playing?
Yeah.
Chicago and Houston.
Chicago and Houston.
But no Caleb Williams.
The number-
Caleb Williams
yeah.
versus
The
CJ Stroud. No.
The threes for Chicago and Houston,
Yeah.
according to
So I
the
like-
back.
I
Not
talked
even
to,
like a series.
I
of
talked to
Caleb
somebody upstairs who I won't name. I said, you're going to watch tonight? Oh yeah. I always watch. I'm like, let me ask you a
Aaron's
question.
really into this.
Let me
huh?
ask you a question.
It had to be Aaron.
Well, of all the years that you've watched, if you hadn't seen any of those games, what would you have missed? You couldn't answer.
Like I haven't watched that game since 2000.
Yeah, I haven't
we all
watched
know
it
why
since
I
we
watched-
were in it.
That's 2000.
Right.
Tom Brady's first ever game.
It's got to
Yeah.
be a couple of years though. Patriots are going to be there, right? Brady.
It's got to be
probably?
close, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
2024. It's been 24 years.
Well, I would think when it's Brady's year, we'll be there.
Yeah, when he's going in. Usually they have a team in that. So who was it again? I'm sorry. Tonight it's Texans
Chicago and
Chicago.
Houston,
Yeah.
Chicago.
Either of those teams have a player.
Is
being
Andre
inducted?
Johnson?
I believe Andre Johnson's in this class, right? Or is that last
Not
year?
Hester. Is it Hester? What's
No,
the name?
Hester I think was the
Last-
last. I'll look it up, but
Yeah.
They do
Yeah.
try to do that.
Yeah.
Kind of sync it up with the class.
I got something else. How about Bill Belichick going to work for Underdog Fantasy?
Yeah,
Cool.
that's interesting. I did a little research on Underdog Fantasy and who's behind it. It started with investors, but Kevin Durant, Jared Goff, and Adam Schefter himself, who broke the news, are investors in that company.
Deuce, you are correct. Devin Hester, Andre Johnson.
Yeah, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
That those two teams would be in it.
Yeah.
And it'll make sense. when
Julius
Brady goes
Peppers,
in.
who played had a couple years with Chicago.
Yeah. But going back to that,
Yeah.
it looks intriguing. It's going to be a lot of X and O's with Bill. I think people like Evan will be glued to it. I do wonder, though, it's going to be on YouTube, by the way. That's how you watch it. I do wonder if it's going to have that mass audience that I don't think you might have people tuning in at first, but to me, that stuff gets boring after a while. I think most fans just want to watch the games and keep it entertainment rather than homework.
Yeah, I think the problem I guess it's not a problem necessarily, but the good clips are going to make it onto Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it. So, is there any reason to sit down and watch 30 minutes of this when the 5 minutes of things that are actually interesting that he says are going to be clipped out and put on X, and then that doesn't generate clicks for their site, So I probably wouldn't actually sit down and watch all 30 minutes of it.
But it's interesting. You said, I really wanted to work with Underdog because it's a company that's run by sports people, and I heard one of your people this morning say that's a shot at the Patriots. It's being run by sports people.
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
It's a shot at non-sports people
because
no one knows it. It's like the geniuses at the league.
Yeah,
it's one of those. It's not a shot.
And
at
also,
the
I think it's a shot at maybe some of the job offers that he's had from companies that weren't, wants the suits at these networks.
He doesn't want to do these cute little quippy, 12-second bites in between everybody else talking. He wants to break down film and talk ball.
Right.
That's what he wants.
Right.
Does he, though? That's what I can't...
Yes, he does.
That's what he wants.
That's his superpower.
He's doing NFL film. I'm not talking... I mean, he would have been the Atlanta Falcons coach had they offered him the job.
No, is this I just feel like this is him holding his nose and being like...
No,
this is what it is
but
now.
This is what he's interested in. Is
if
film.
I'm going to do
like
something, this is what I want to do.
Oh, yeah. We're exactly the same.
I'm just having trouble imagining him being excited about this. I just think in his heart of hearts, he wants to coach a team, and he wants to do that. And
I agree that he would rather be a coach.
Dealing with fantasy sports.
But in other words, instead of being one of the 7 guys on ESPN's pregame show on Sunday or pick the Fox or CBS, he'd rather be breaking down film of the game for NFL film.
He doesn't want to be getting into little debates with Terry Bradshaw.
No, but now it's it's a fantasy sports company too, though. So I got to imagine he has no respect for fantasy general. I mean, I understand why the company did it. It's a great get for them. They probably ponied up as much cash as they could possibly grab to make this their thing. But just watching him do it, and it's welcome to our side, buddy. It's you did nothing but tool on what we do. And then and now you're
coming around eventually, Mike.
Yeah,
I just wonder, one, does it make him more likable? Can he put out a persona that improves his likability, which I think was an issue for this past coaching cycle, was just his personality, and people know him from his press conferences and not necessarily the stuff that he would give the players and the team behind closed doors. And he did do some stuff for the draft, right, with ESPN, and he came off pretty well in those things.
Absolutely.
So likability, and then the other thing is in these film breakdowns, coaching chops. Does he show off and he probably will a little bit, but
I don't think he needs that, but it's a good point because I heard people this morning say, he's never coaching again. He's got 3 media gigs right now. He's never coaching again.
I think it's closer to 5.
It might be. I don't think that says he's never coaching again. He's staying relevant.
I think
did it hurt the guy that got the Lakers job?
No, I think it's
you want to be you want to be still out there.
I think I am 100%. I think it's the exact opposite of you wanting to do this. You got to keep your name in the news.
Yeah.
You got to keep yourself in the limelight. Yeah. So that next coaching cycle, you're not a forgotten soul at that point.
I know this shouldn't be the reason why you hire a head coach, but part of the reason is, what's the fan reaction going to be? And if like he's having a great year on media, and now he's my next head coach, fans are excited.
That's
right.
That's exactly.
No, maybe
it.
it's smart. I guess I would have thought that he would kind of do what Vrabel did, maybe, and just disappear behind the scenes on a team, and get a chance to just be out of the spotlight, not worry about having to deal with press conferences, and still be in the mix. And I mean, I don't want to make it sound like I'm complaining about this. Like, I will enjoy watching it. It's just striking when we've been in the position that we've been in, and all of a sudden now he's on our side of the street, and it's like, oh, I'm working with sports people.
It's inside the NFL.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah,
McAfee.
He's got the
Manning.
McAfee thing, the Manning cast, this thing,
Right.
and I'm told that there's another one coming for NFL films.
My
Yeah.
God.
I think he's going to have sort of like an NFL matchup kind of thing.
Okay.
that's
where it's just all filmed.
Yeah, I can get with that.
You guys
for sure.
can.
Yeah, no.
I
that's-
just
You guys can do that on your own time.
I will.
I
I'm
do
with
think
Evan
that
on
in
that.
this last coaching cycle, selling him to the younger generation, this generation of players, the likability factor, and all that kind of stuff was an issue for a lot of these teams. That's why a lot of these teams hired much younger coaches than Bill Belichick. This time around, if he's this different person on TV that maybe these teams haven't seen in the public eye,
Surprise.
it might help him.
But do you think
appeal.
that the 16 to 35-year-old, mostly males, are going to want to watch this kind of stuff, or would they rather play Madden, watch the games, and watch highlights?
No, I'm talking about the owners. Like, I'm talking
Okay.
about the people doing the actual hiring
Oh, yeah.
for
sure.
these teams.
Oh, yeah.
Because now you can sell it as, well, you all loved him on McAfee and you all loved him with Peyton Manning.
Especially
and,
if he says something about my team that my own coaches didn't say.
right.
Oh.
It's like,
Yeah.
which very well could happen.
Yeah.
Well, we all know he can turn it on. Like, he can easily be charming and funny and, just completely different than, what you traditionally think he is. So, buyer beware, because he's going to put on the good face for that. But
Sure.
I think when he coaches the team, it's going to be a lot of what he established here, going back to that stuff. Not, hey, I'm the happy-go-lucky film guy now, everybody. Well, everybody loves me. He's got, he's got a clown nose on and doing jokes and stuff. It's not him.
Well, he did put that helmet on. And,
I think I think the whole clown nose thing is why he's not doing stuff like Fox and ESPN,
Yeah,
because he doesn't
right.
want to be with
Yeah,
them.
no, in the NFL films, to me, that makes all the sense in the world. You guys have said it all the time that he'd jump through a hoop with that place anytime. I mean, that's I think the only outlet that he truly, respects and enjoys.
Yep.
But,
So
and
that's that.
an Underdog Fantasy now too.
All right, 855-PATS-500 is the Ace Ticket hotline. 855-PATS-500. Web radio at patriots.com is the email address. Anything else you want to talk about? NFL news? I mean,
Trying to
a
think.
big contract down in Tampa Bay.
yes.
Oh, I missed this.
Tristan Wirfs.
Oh, Tristan.
5
Huge.
years. Yeah, he's a fantastic player.
Yeah.
What
Really
was it?
good.
5 years? What?
Like over 100 million. I don't know the
No,
exact
it
number.
was like 130.
yeah, like 88 guaranteed. I
So
think
he's
it
a
was.
guy that a lot of Patriots fans had sort of pointed to,
Dreamland.
as a pending free agent.
It's Evan's thing. They don't get to free agency anymore.
No, those
you know?
those types of tackles don't, and they got the 5th year on him. Penny Sewell signed for 4 to try to hit free agency a year earlier in his next cycle. So the Bucks getting him for that 5th year was considered a win for
And we
them.
should probably mention some video coming out of Jets camp
Which one?
with Aaron Rodgers and
Oh, man.
one of his receivers getting into it. And
They were. I did.
Gotta
see-
love it.
I
Gotta
saw
love
that
it.
video too. But me and Paul.
really that good.
Me and Paul talked a little bit about the Jets though, because they had a good day of practice the other day. They had a bad day a couple days ago. I mean, I don't want to derail with your point, but like I've been watching a lot of the reports from camp, and it's just a lot of the same stuff. It's like, one hand you see, here's Caleb Williams making a great throw. Here's Caleb Williams making a terrible throw. Across the board, all the rookies, J.J. McCarthy, same kind of thing. And then the Jets, I saw they had a terrible day. They couldn't get anything going. Then they had a good day. But then to Fred's point, they're talking, him and Garrett Wilson just look like kind of at each other a little bit. But I don't know, competitive guys, I think.
Yeah,
But, hey, I'm hoping that
again,
it doesn't work.
Like, we want to make fun of it because, it's the Jets. But
No, I just like to
be
make fun
fair,
of Rodgers.
Like, to be fair, it's probably a whole lot of nothing.
yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I mean, I got to imagine he's gonna be looking Garrett Wilson's way a lot this year. That's a dangerous matchup.
yeah, they're gonna. That's gonna be a
They're
great.
gonna be mad at
hookup.
each other. He's gonna ice him out. I mean, and we all want that to happen. We all want this year. It's like, no, he stays healthy, but he just hates Garrett Wilson and refuses to throw him the ball.
I feel like the more that we cover training camp, more I cover training camp, the more I realize that training camp really is not indicative for the top of the roster. Like, I don't know if you can necessarily tell if a team is going to be great or not based off of these practices, because the Deuce's point, you read these other practices and it's a roller coaster for every single team.
Even in the heyday of the dynasty here, I think we had a very mediocre preseason record when it came to the games.
Oh, the games are completely and utterly meaningless. But like the preseason, like the training camp practices, I think you can sort of see like. And this is
the day. Yeah.
This is the extreme. It's the extreme. But like we all talked about 07, like this looks different. Yeah. We didn't know what it was gonna.
Nobody said it was undefeated.
Most of us admit we didn't know exactly how different, but we said this is going to be a much more explosive offense. Like they had a really good offense in 04, 05, 06. But when you watched 07's training camp, everybody said the same thing. Like
even without Moss, really, because
we didn't get to see a ton of Moss, but this just looked different.
Yeah. Welker,
how fast the ball was coming.
All of a sudden, the spread,
and it was just different. Like when you could see Brady, and they did have good training camps. Like the ball, like almost never hit the ground.
Well, we got so used to it,
so efficient.
Yeah. I mean, that might be the pinnacle. I just think for a lot of these teams that are down to earth, like not the dynasty Patriots.
Right. A little different.
I keep going back to the Green Bay joint practices, and just that team looked okay, but it didn't look like a team that was going to make the playoffs and win a playoff game and go on this any sort of run, and or any differently than the Patriots. And then you read reports that Brock Purdy threw like 3 interceptions in practice 2 days ago, and then yesterday he lit it up. That's a Super Bowl favorite in the 49ers that are going through the same ups and downs.
And you know what I think is the difference? And I know that I always rail against this. I don't ever remember anybody ever keeping stats. That's a new thing.
Back then,
yeah. I don't remember the just the litany of numbers that come out of training camp practices. Yeah. And I'm not telling you that no one ever did it, because I know every time I say no one did it, people say, "Well, I remember
interceptions."
No one ever kept track of that crap. Yeah. Someone might have said, "Oh, Rodney Harrison picked off Tom Brady today," and a fight ensued, because they were so competitive. But I don't remember people charting every single snap, every single play the way that we do now. When I say we, I mean them.
Yeah, it's just really hard to do because there's so much context needed for every single play that doesn't exist in practice. Like there was, I think it was actually Tyquan. He caught a pass in the back of the end zone in one of the red zone periods, but Brissett must have held the ball for 5 or 6 seconds.
There was a handful of plays like that today.
Yep.
That would not have been completed in a game.
Right, and so in a game you figure sack, throwaway, something like that. Now, is there a chance that he pulls a Houdini act and extends the play that happens? Sure, but in reality, if you're just tracking stats,
there's so much to every play. I mean, we talked about it earlier. Maybe it's not a big deal, but the fact that Drake May had a better day. Caden Wallace was his left tackle on some of those. Maybe that made a difference. I don't know.
I think Evans throwing that out there, I think, is purely plausible. I mean, they might have just wanted to give him a little more time to throw.
Yeah.
That's
what's he look like with
the
a
left
NFL tackle in front of him?
Well,
that's why I've
I'll
enjoyed.
Let you know when they have one.
That's why.
Ba-dum-bum.
Well, I mean, we're just calling a kid 7 days into his career.
Yes.
Well, competent.
2 padded practices, I'm ready to stamp Caden Wallace.
And that's why I've really enjoyed just the last couple of days, just charting the personnel, the rotation, just because it gives you a sense of who they want to see the most of. And if a guy like Juju just isn't getting out there, it's hard to say he's really in the mix for one of those top 5, 6 spots.
Well, he tripped over a rock on Tuesday, and he hurt himself.
That was wild.
He had a drop today, too, didn't he? And then, did Duggar get a pick on that one? I couldn't really see it great. Did he drop it?
I do not believe there were any picks.
No,
I felt like it was out of bounds.
Yeah, it might have been.
Yeah.
Well, it was a hot one out there today, and if you were out there, you know what you would enjoy. It's easy to drink, easy to enjoy. Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the New England Patriots. And if you're watching from home, has your work from home space turned into an everything from home space? Find furniture that fits your life, your budget, and your living space thanks to Bob's Discount Furniture. Shop tons of on-trend, small space-friendly styles like Bob's Do-It-All dining sets, smart storage, and small footprint sectionals that can take you all the way from midday meeting to happy hour in no time. So stop into your local store and multitask stylishly with Bob's Discount Furniture, the official furniture store of the New England Patriots. All right, webradio@patriots.com is the email address. Let's get to some of these emails. This is Timothy from Flagstaff. He says, I just wanted to chime in and ask why Ben Volen said Joe Milton is outplaying Drake May. I listen to PU instead of anything else because of the straightforward results you give, and I think other people saying these things are just insane. Yeah, that would be insane.
I will say that Joe Milton has had his moments in this training camp.
Yeah,
so
especially lately. Yeah.
It's not totally... It's okay to say that Joe Milton has had some good throws in this camp. Like
It's not insane. I just don't think it's accurate.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, that's probably the best way to put it. And I talking to people that watch college football religiously and cover college football, they keep reminding me that this is what happens to every single team that sinks their teeth into Joe Milton. Michigan, Tennessee, now the Patriots. In practice, the guy looks like he's got all the tools and all the ability in the world, and then you get into the games and he just has it's never all come together for him. It's never all clicked. And a lot of these teams, Michigan, mostly Michigan, were duped by the physical ability.
I don't know. I mean, who knows? But I read. You were with me, Evan and Deuce, today. I read out some stats of a quarterback last year in college, and I said, are these good quarterback stats? And he said, yes. I go, well, that was Joe Milton in Tennessee.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Now, the year before...
What was the record?
No, there's his quarterback stats.
Oh, but what was the record?
We didn't get into that, Paul.
But that's a big part of your stats.
But he had 20 interceptions, 20 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. He had close to 660 percentage. He had almost 3,000 yards passing.
Almost 3,000 yards?
Yeah, it was like 2,800 yards.
That sounds pretty pedestrian. 20 touchdowns and 2,800 yards?
Yeah.
And nowadays they throw the ball every play?
I don't know what kind of offense they run.
I do.
Yeah. But anyway, they weren't bad stats.
They run a spread.
Okay. Yeah, they run air raid.
Yeah.
He has all the ability. No one's ever questioned his ability, and in a training camp practice setting, he's going to make some throws that are going to make you go, wow, that's really impressive.
Because of his physical gift.
He is, and that is as advertised, man. He's impressive.
Yeah.
The way he throws the ball is different than everybody else.
It's like Bethel Johnson. Whoa, he's fast. But, he was just an okay player.
Yeah, his... everybody makes a big deal with Milton about the orange, him throwing the orange 100 yards and how far he can throw the ball. His drive throws are way more impressive to me than the deep ball. Yep. We haven't seen the deep ball a ton, but just his ability to throw like an in cut on a rope in between a couple zone defenders, like 12, 13 yards down the field, it shrinks the field. Like his in cut is not the same in cut as Bailey Zappi's in cut, and it's incredible to watch. It's probably the livest arm I've ever seen.
I said a couple of times, and people were gaga over that 65-yard pass. And I think that every quarterback in football could do what he did, but not everybody could get it there as fast as he got it there.
Right.
That's where the separation comes. It's a stronger arm, maybe than is in the league right now. I don't know if there are any guys, especially like Stafford's one of those guys that has a ridiculous arm, but at his age, he probably doesn't throw it like that anymore. Maybe Mahomes still can. I don't know, but it just looks different coming off his hand.
Rodgers has a strong arm too.
Oh, Rodgers' arm is ridiculous.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Yep.
Let's see. Colleen writes in, I feel like a big reason Joe Milton might be performing slightly better so far is he's bound to be more loose. Drake has the expectations of being the savior of a storied franchise on his shoulders, and Milton's outside expectations are to be a backup. It reminds me of when the Celtics would play not to lose against bad teams, and the bad teams would end up winning because they had nothing to lose by going all out.
Yeah, I think there's something to the perception of how, I think when Milton makes one of those throws that Evan's talking about, like he fits one between two defenders, and everybody's like, wow, did you see that throw? But then they kind of don't really talk about the three that didn't look like NFL plays, because he's a 6th-round pick and he's a rookie, and he has these physical skills, and no one really talks about it. Whereas May doesn't get that luxury.
No,
every play is immensely analyzed and dissected. I would also say I don't think they're asking Milton to do what they're asking Brissett and May to do.
Yeah, I always tiptoe around exactly what you just said, but I
Zone reads?
yeah, I would bring it. I think there's some truth to that, and certainly not as much under center work for Joe Milton, whereas Drake May is really running their base offense on early downs and being more pro style in nature. Like Joe Milton the other day, before the off day on Tuesday, threw an absolute rocket to Juju Smith-Schuster on an RPO, and I really haven't seen the Patriots run those types of plays as much when Drake has been in there. It's not that Drake can't do it, but that is what Joe Milton is, and I do wonder, like, he's going to play a ton in the preseason. Milton is. I'm sure we'll see a decent amount of Drake May too.
Yeah.
But these are the types of plays that are going to make Joe Milton look good in preseason games because it's the type of offense he's used to running. So I wonder if maybe that's why they're asking him to do these things, because on Thursday night next week, when he's in there, that's what the type of offense they're going to be running. It's kind of like Malik Cunningham to an extent, where Malik Cunningham had all these different types of plays that they weren't putting in with Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi.
It's just so hard with the volume. I mean, that to me is what stands out most. It's like, I mean, how many more snaps has Milton has May taken in team periods? It's like 4 times the amount of snaps that Milton has. So you're talking about a sample size, and again, he's had some good throws, but it's like you're talking about like 10 reps.
If you were one of those guys that said, drafting, multiple quarterbacks is good business.
Yep.
You sort of you develop, and you can never have too much. I would think that you are very encouraged by the early returns.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he looks like physically
worth the chance.
It was worth the 6th round pick and all that stuff, and
Yep.
there might be something there. I just would caution if we're going to take it from that to don't be surprised if he ends up winning the starting job.
Yeah.
Like, I think there's an enormous gap between those two mindsets.
Yeah, we're definitely developing him, asking him to switch positions, and all, like, some of the stuff that people talked about pre-draft, I think is off the table. Like, he should develop as a quarterback, no doubt. Like, he's an NFL backup quarterback, I think, just based off of what we've seen. But to Paul's point, is he a starter? Like, that's probably pushing it right now. But does he belong on an NFL roster at this time of year as a quarterback? Yes.
Yeah, I just can't. I have no idea what he is. Like, I need to see him in a game situation where he can execute plays and get the play. And, I have no idea if he could string
what was
plays
the knock
together.
on him in college?
Erratic. So, like, he can't.
So his accuracy.
Yeah, and decision making and processing.
decision-making.
Yep.
It's more that.
Yep.
It's more the decision making.
Okay.
So that's the stuff in
Yeah.
games like this. Like, out here, it's a little bit hidden with, especially in 7-on-7.
Right. It's so
Like,
scripted.
there was one play that so this guy sent me a bunch of stuff. He's obviously a huge Tennessee fan, and he heard our original argument about this, and he was like, you were so right, blah blah blah. He showed me a clip. It was 3 seconds left in the game from like the 23-yard line, and they were down 4, and he sort of got flushed out of the pocket. He's trying to buy time. He's running toward the sideline, and he's running like this, and then he started running down the sideline, like half speed, like not like clearly like, and then he got to like the 15 or the 12, and he just ducked out of bounds. Like, the clock ran out. Like, like, I can understand like a brain cramp, like you shouldn't try to run, but like if you do try to run, I'm going full speed trying to get in the end zone.
Right.
Like it was like he thought he
Situational awareness.
Yeah. And I
It's almost like he lateraled in a tie game.
And this guy
Ouch.
said, now again, this is where we don't all watch every play, every drive of Tennessee Volunteers football.
Their offense, I did.
This guy was telling me that was sort of indicative of the way he played.
Yeah.
Like, no feel for the game. Decisions were lacking all the time.
Yeah.
Now, maybe this guy just didn't like Joe Milton.
Yeah.
Who knows?
But those are to your point, like, those are the people that watch Tennessee. Like, I always used to argue with the North Carolina football fans about Drake May. Like, those people watch it for them to win the football game. Whereas, like, when scouts watch these guys, they're looking for the traits. Like, yes, it would be great to draft a quarterback that has the traits and won in college, but the most important thing is the traits. So, like, from a scouting perspective, Joe Milton makes a lot of sense to take him as a draft pick. But to the Tennessee fans, it's like, we had this game and we had that game and we had this game where we had chances to win, and he just couldn't get us over the top, or he made a mistake like that, or whatever. And that's what you hear from the people that watch it, like we watch the Patriots.
And consistency. Like, he would come out and have a great drive, and then maybe the next drive he'd look like he'd never really been the starting quarterback before, and it just kind of went in and out of games. Let's face it, the SEC's on all the time. It was like that 3:30 CBS game all the time with SEC games, and you'd see him and you'd be like, this guy is unbelievable. And then you'd look up and it'd be like they'd have 10 points in the fourth quarter, and you're like, what happened? Like, it looked so good at the beginning.
Kind of connected to this, do you think we've seen less situational, like down and distance kind of like, I don't really remember a lot of like try to string a drive together, try to 2-minute stuff. Like, it's all been very like, we're middle of the field and play. It's not connected.
They have had some down and distance, but not the way that Bill used to do it.
Where it was, like there was just throwing situations at you or trying to string drives together, and that's
because the sticks have been out there and they've had like whatever the down is.
But it's never like 2 minutes on the clock.
They haven't done They really haven't done 2 minutes.
And that's where I think you need to see Milton to really believe that he's going to make any kind of a push. Like, I mean, first of all, you need to see him get more than just one set of mop-up reps every practice. Like, until he starts to actually look like he's involved in even the conversation, because every practice we've seen so far, it's so clear that they are looking at Jacoby Brissett and Drake May as getting the top reps and really drilling those guys. And, all right, your turn, Zappy. Like, there's just no indication at all from the coaching staff.
I don't think I know a word that would describe my surprise if Joe Milton was the week 1 starter.
Oh.
I don't know if there's a word that would describe that.
I mean,
based on what I've seen through 7 days.
We got 5 more training camp practices. Like, your time is running out, Joe. If you're gonna do it.
Yeah.
At least in front of us.
I wonder how much the impact that these West Coast coaches, like West Coast offense, like not that they're from California, like West Coast offense coaches have on the script of practice, because those guys just like to run plays. Like, they don't really, they're just looking to run the perfect play. And it's play, and then it's rehuddle. What did you do wrong? What did you do right? Play. Like, and they're not necessarily looking at it like Bill used to structure practice like it was a game.
Yeah, I don't care for this style. I'll tell you that.
I kind of prefer the
I don't think
too.
They get enough plays in.
Yeah, these coaches are big on how it's drawn up on the whiteboard. We want to get as close to that as we possibly can in practice, and we're just going to keep drilling it. Almost like it doesn't matter where on the field they are, like it really, the field position aspect of it doesn't really even matter.
I'll give you an example of today. Very, late in the practice when they were finally wrapping up the team. So they had Brissett go out, run one play, and then they huddled. They rushed to the line, and they clearly were designed. They wanted to see if they could get the defense. Maybe it was a 3rd and short, and they're deciding whether or not. We're going to go for it on 4th down. We're going to try to draw the defense offside. And if we don't, well, we'll just take the penalty or call timeout. Right? Then they did the same thing with May. He ran one play, did the same thing, trying to draw the defense offside. Like, I don't think they've run enough plays to get to that kind of situational stuff yet.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I'm not saying, like, you shouldn't work on that. You absolutely need to work on that. Bill did all the time. But it was, in the span of – I felt like the team periods were more like 10 plays, not like 4 or 5 plays.
Yeah.
Like they were.
Yeah.
So, like, there's been a lot made of there's more competitive periods in these practices. I don't think there's any difference.
No, I
think it's been the same.
And those practices speak more to me and just in my, like, limited football playing. Like, that's what football is. It's just, like, you don't really have a sense of, like, settle down. Now we're all going to make the play. Like, it's like, oh, God, all right, well, back. All right, what are we doing now? Like, it's that, like, getting the information, knowing the situation, how much time's left, where the ball is, what, all that
Maybe
crap
doesn't
has to
feel
go.
they're there yet.
I don't know.
You definitely hear a lot about these practices, though, and that they're kind of a slog.
Yeah.
Like a old Mike McCarthy Green Bay practice is just
starting from scratch.
Yeah, that's how they run practices. So a little bit different, and their offense is so predicated on window dressing and everything looking the same on early downs. Like, your run plays should marry up to your play actions, and the defense shouldn't be able to tell the difference in the first couple steps of the play, and that takes a lot of repetition. It's all muscle memory and all that kind of stuff, and the way that they do that is the way we've seen practice.
Let's see. Juan from Monterey does not like the Godchaux contract. He says he doesn't impact the passing game. Plus, he's on the older side. I believe that a 3rd or 4th round pick could do 80% of the job that he does stopping the run.
So I feel like I hear what he's saying, but I also think that in recent years, that mindset has gotten them into trouble because they've drafted guys thinking we'll just get 80% of this player with our third round pick, and it's Marte Mapu and he can't get on the field, and that it doesn't work out.
Yeah.
So you can sit here and say, yeah, they could have drafted a defensive tackle in the draft and replaced Devon Godchaux that way, but what if he's not as good as Devon Godchaux? And there was a string there where Bill was was hit. He would trade Richard Seymour or whatever, Chandler Jones, and he would just draft somebody and get 75% of the player. But then when you stop doing that, all of a sudden the talent on the roster just starts to fade away.
Yeah, I would say that you had decisions. I don't think they had anybody. I mean, I'm not a huge Godchaux guy. People know that. Although I do like the way he's kind of handled his situation as comparatively to Judon. They don't really have a guy that's a run stuffer right now that I would say like, oh, well, that's the guy. Like maybe Watts did that in Pittsburgh. I don't know enough about him to know. They let Lawrence Guy go. So I don't think Sam Roberts is that kind of guy. I don't think they have like a younger guy.
Farms is the closest thing.
Yeah, those guys I don't think are going to give you 75% of Godchaux.
Yeah.
I also don't think it's a really big contract.
No,
I think they gave him a little bit to wet his beak.
Right.
I don't think the same kind of percentage-wise. I don't think the same would satisfy Judon.
He got like $16 million guaranteed.
Yeah.
Right, but it's also he got a little more this year, and then the rest of the guarantee next year. Like the second year of the extension is probably not going to come to fruition.
Yeah.
It's not guaranteed. So he's got a little guaranteed money for this year and next. He was going to make 7.5, I think. It's probably going to be closer to like 10. And then he gets the rest next year, and then that's going to be it.
Yeah.
And I don't really think they have a guy that stops the run like he does.
It's good. I think you put it really well, Paul. It's like they didn't really have a choice. Like it's just there's nobody really out there. The drop off, especially with Barmore.
You're
being
already
out,
kind of
being tested.
kind of like
That helped him.
and
kind of backed him into a corner. Like,
Yeah.
now what are you going to do?
And you don't. I mean, Dietrich Wise is a solid player, but
I think you can run at him, though.
Yeah, you usually could, and that's kind of been his thing. So especially without Guy, I just think they had to. I think you described it perfectly. It's not a big deal. I think he's a good player in the middle. I mean, he plays 60% of the snaps. He's been really healthy. I don't think he's missed a single game since he's been here. So though you take those things into consideration, he's going to do what he does. It's an important piece, but I just don't think they really had a choice based on how it all
855-PATS-500 is the Ace Ticket hotline. Webradio@patriots.com is the email address. Let's hit the phones. Patty's in Agawam. What's up, Patty?
What's up, guys?
Hey.
Can you hear me better?
Yep, we can hear you.
All right. I just got a question for Freddie and a question for Paul, or for the more esteemed gentleman on the show. Freddie, who's taken over for the pregame and postgame duties this year?
Oh, we got a special surprise for everybody. People are going to love it. We'll keep it under wraps until Thursday. So.
For what?
All right, and I wanted
Pre-game,
to ask
post-game.
this question earlier.
That's
in the
been announced.
off-season,
You guys missed
but
it.
Since it is still technically the off season, I just wanted to get your guys' opinion on what your favorite '80s song was, like a typical '80s type song.
Oh man,
I don't know.
Paul, I think you would like my pick because it has Philip Bailey, but Philip Bailey and Phil Collins, Easy Lover.
Easy Lover, good
And,
song.
And just a shout out to Travis in West Virginia. Keep the zingers coming, buddy. I love them. That's all I got, guys.
All right, thanks, Patty.
Favorite '80s song is tough.
Yeah,
It's tough for me.
I don't know like which decade different songs are. I know songs that I like, but if you tell them, oh, that's a '70s or an '80s song, I get confused.
Hearts on Fire, Rocky IV.
Ooh, that's went right to the soundtrack for that one.
I just knew it's from the 80s because the movie came out.
He had it at the ready.
I think that's 80s,
Who
right?
sings it?
No idea.
Survivor.
Is it
Hearts
Survivor?
on Fire. They do that one.
The
too? I
'80s
don't
was
remember.
a weird decade for music because you were coming off disco, right?
Yeah.
And you got into a lot of like punk rock.
You got into
and
grunt
ska.
and ended
And
up
like
with
weird,
grunge.
trippy stuff,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
safety
Because the
pants.
early '90s was like Pearl Jam and all
Right,
that.
right. So it was kind of a bridge year, a bridge
can't hear you.
decade for music, if you ask me.
85, Rocky IV. Nailed it.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh, I can hear myself.
I mean, I had the Tiger probably be in my running just
Yeah.
because. I mean, as a kid, Deuce, that was it's hard not to get psyched when that.
Would help to turn my volume up. John Cafferty.
Oh.
John Cafferty was Hearts on Fire.
I feel like I
would have lost a lot of money
Actually,
on that.
I think that's exactly what I was going to say, too. I think.
I would have lost a lot of money on that.
Is that the
No
Beaver
lie.
Browns band?
Here's a good one for you.
I did like John Cafferty.
Who composed,
On the Dark Side
who
was a really good
composed
song.
on the Rocky IV album? What's the name of the guy who did like while they're boxing, that music, like all the compositions? Remember that guy?
Vangelis.
Vince DiCola.
I don't know.
I had the tape. I know.
How do you?
I had the tape.
I
loved
was
it.
waiting for we did a project with him.
I
He
love
scored my student film.
I love Eye of the
He
Tiger.
scored my student film.
I would never besmidge Eye of the Tiger, but Ready to Fly Now might be better.
Oh yeah. No, I had that
It-
too on my workout mix. You know.
it might be better. Yeah.
Losers.
Yeah.
You should have heard my 5th grade middle school band play hard.
Let's get back to the phones. Noah's in Toronto. What's up, Noah?
Hey guys, I just had a quick question about Devon Godchaux.
Yeah.
I kind of see PFF really doesn't like him. He's like the 102nd ranked interior defender last year, and by contrast, like we know Belichick really liked him. I was wondering if you guys have any insights on like what's the discrepancy there. Is there stuff he's doing that like PFF wouldn't be capturing or something? Thanks.
Well, I think PFF, you're grading out defensive linemen like in a vacuum of like almost like Madden ratings, right? Where pass rush is going to be more important, and the fact that he doesn't play a lot in the passing game and doesn't put a lot of pressure on quarterbacks is going to knock him. And you also have to look at production, and like he plays in a 2-gapping system where he's a nose tackle, so like he's not going to have TFLs, he's not going to have stuffs, like that's not going to be those volume stats are not going to count up. So
The little things don't count in that.
yeah, they say that they're grading the film and everything, but they sign a lot of grades to production based stuff.
I mean, Will Fork was never a favorite. I mean, and he's as good as they got. And
I've argued with them before about this.
No, that was one of my places. Out.
With some of my friends over there, and I'm just like, but guys, like you're saying that so and so, Dante Hightower. I remember this. You're saying that Dante Hightower is having a bad season, and that could not be further from the truth. Yeah. And like, so where's the disconnect here? And a lot of it had to do with they don't give him a plus for blowing up a guard and and letting somebody else make the tackle. Right, whereas when you're watching the film, the coaches here are saying Dante Hightower did his job.
Right.
So that's the big discrepancy there.
Yeah, sure. We argued about that. Well, not argued, but lamented about that for years. Todd's in North Carolina. What's up, Todd?
Hey guys, can you hear me this time?
Yeah.
So I got a quick thing. I want one guy that you've been pleasantly surprised by, and one guy you're just a little bit disappointed in from each of you. Thanks, guys. Great job.
Okay,
Bye now.
thanks. One guy pleasantly surprised, one guy a little disappointed.
Putting some thought into this one.
Yeah, I haven't really.
I wish I'm going to use this as an
about
opportunity to say I wish I was pleasantly surprised by Keon White. I know some people have written that he's doing great in camp. I haven't seen it yet. I'd love to see it. So I don't know what that makes him, but I'll just use this chance to say I wish I could say him right now. Some people probably would say him. Disappointing.
I don't want to take the cheese. I talked about Thornton.
Right.
Maybe
Yep.
he's a pleasant surprise.
I thought of that one.
I haven't really been overly disappointed. I mean, maybe if you hooked me up to a lie detector, I would have to admit I'm a little disappointed in May, but I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not really overly surprised.
Right.
I thought he was 21 and was going to need some time to develop.
Yeah.
Mapu's, it's just disappointing he's hurt again. I mean, that's a disappointment. Would have liked to see him out there.
A little surprised with Rager.
On the plus
He's
side,
done nothing since Pat's came
Yeah,
out.
he-
I'll throw one out there actually. That I don't. And he's on the fringe right now. But I'm just kind of intrigued a little bit as Jermichael Hasty of just here and there show
I think
some
he's gonna
burst,
make the team.
And I don't know. I'm not gonna say he's gonna be the next superstar or anything. But just one of those guys that. And the same thing with Terrell Jennings kid who just was hurt. But just watching him move a little bit, I think there's a spot there. Just guys I'd like to see in the preseason, and see if they have any juice. I mean, I know Hasty's played a little bit in the league, so he's not a total jump, but guys that maybe could get a spot. He's had a little bit of juice. He's gotten some reps, with some of these groups that we've been talking about.
Maybe the Jimenez guy looks like
Yep.
Yeah, I haven't really
flashes a
seen
little
much
bit.
out of
might
him.
make a roster.
I had someone sort of talk to me a little bit about him, that he's one of those he looks like he's one of those guys that's playing a little bit harder than everybody else.
Oh,
You know,
No, Paul hates those guys.
could see that. I would say
it wasn't my observation. I'll
Yeah.
be honest. It wasn't. It was from the know-it-all tent.
Yeah.
yeah.
Try hard.
Pleasantly surprised. I would just say the starting offensive line as a whole. Like I just don't think it's been a train wreck. Yeah, I'm not saying that they've been elite or anything like that, but based off of the last couple camps that we've seen where there's guys running through the line all the time, I don't feel like it's been that way.
To me, that's health.
Yeah.
Like these guys have been out there every day.
Yeah.
You know, Andrew's missed a couple days, obviously, but for the most part, they've had their top, call it 8, 9 guys,
Yeah.
minus Cole Strange.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and they've been out there every day. Last year, when the season started, they had to frantically find Tyrone Wheatley and Vidarian Lowe off the scrap heap because Calvin Anderson was gone for the
Malaria.
entirety of camp. They had nowhere. I mean, they didn't even have Connor McDermott. Remember?
Yeah.
they
He's
could
on
get him.
IR.
They had nowhere to turn. They had
Yeah.
all these guys were hurt. This year, Evan's right. It's not been anything like we
Predictably
saw
getting
last
to that
year.
point too.
Yeah,
which is
and I
just like,
also
well, what did you
just
think was gonna
like shout out to my guy Scott Peters. Like I feel like Scott Peters,
broad shoulders.
he's growing on me. Not that I didn't like him to begin with.
Broad shoulders.
Every time I look at him, I'm like, this
be
guy's got
careful.
shoulders for days.
If you pump him up too much, he'll be a head coach next year.
Yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic about him, and I think the one thing that really stands out to me is you see a little bit of things with each guy that has gotten better from either last season in the NFL or college. You know, in the
City.
case of Caden Wallace, like City So looks much better in pass protection than he did at times last year. And I think Caden Wallace, a lot of his technique things that people talked about in the draft are already starting to show some signs of improvement. So I give a lot of credit to him and Kugler too. You know, I think those guys know what they're doing with the offensive line, which helps a lot too.
They have a plan.
So
Freddie, is that
we'll
Freddie
see.
Freddie Kugler?
Robert.
Yes.
Oh, Robert.
Robbie.
Speaking of
Kugler.
the offensive line, Dan Copen was in the house today.
Oh,
Saw him
okay.
down in the
Cody.
the know-it-all
Saw
tent.
Cody Davis too.
All right.
The strike system works.
What betting platform is he working for now?
Who? Copen?
Copen?
I just said hello. I
I'm
didn't.
only kidding.
I didn't get into it.
There's so many of them. Everybody seems to be
Feel
there.
out. They're all,
Underdog.
that's all the.
All right, we're going to take a break. It's about halfway through. We'll be right back with more calls and emails on Patriots Unfiltered. Whether you're in the game or betting on the game, you'll need a game plan. DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of the New England Patriots, provides you with everything you need to build your personal betting game plan so you can get in on all the action while practicing safe bets. Visit DraftKings.com/responsible-gaming to learn more about all the safe betting tools DraftKings has to offer. Hope is here, 800-327-5050 or gamblinghelplinema.org. Must be 21 plus. Play it smart from the start. GameSenseMA.com. Physically present in Massachusetts. See DraftKings.com/responsible-gaming for details and state-specific responsible gambling resources.
Isn't it time to get exactly what you want? Welcome to Red Hot Deal Days from Verizon, where you get your pick of our best deals. Like My Plan, where you can pick the perks you want and save on every one. For limited time, bring your own phones to a Verizon store and you can get My Plan for our best price ever. Get exactly what you want in your phone plan and only pay for what you need. Bring your phones to your Verizon store today and get My Plan. These deals won't last. It's your Verizon.
It's good to be back out here. It's good to have the players back in the building. Yesterday we gave them the day off. I know a lot of questions today will be about, Judon and things like that, but just so you guys know, my philosophy and our philosophy is to keep as much internal as possible. Had a great meeting with Judon, and we're all moving forward. I remember as a player, it's always a difficult time, right? It's always a difficult time when you go through contract negotiations and things like that. And in saying that, for the rest of the team, like we're pushing forward. Fully expect Matthew to be out here today and participate in practice. But we're looking forward to getting better out here today. And honestly, we're a week away from playing football. I'm kind of excited to watch the Hall of Fame game tonight. So the guys are ready to come out here and compete.
Jerod, how do you look back on what happened out here on Monday with Matthew?
I'll tell you this, it's, first time head coach and first time in pads, I always remember what happened that day. And saying that, look, we had a conversation, have a great relationship with Matthew, have a great relationship with the players. But we're moving forward, and we're trying to work that.
I know you can't get into specifics, but how would you characterize that conversation with Matt?
It was good. It was healthy. And I always encourage those guys to come in and speak with me or speak with Elliott. And that's what it is. And those things should happen inside of those walls.
It also must feel good to be able to get some kind of closure with Devon.
Oh, absolutely. Look, I mean, that was a long process, but I'm glad we got that deal finished. And once again, it goes to the point of, we want to sign players that we know that still have good balls.
How much did Monday help you being an ex-player and having gone through situations where contracts and negotiations?
Yeah, it's helped a lot. And in saying that, I will say each situation is unique to itself. And so we can sit here and say, you should do this or do that. They're all different situations. But like I said earlier, I feel good about where we are right now. I feel good about the way the players are operating out here on the field. I feel good about the way that Elliott and his staff are going to, about this stuff, because obviously he's very heavily involved. So we're in a good place.
Jerod, on Tuesday, Matthew wasn't here at practice following what happened Monday. There was a report also that he wasn't at the facility. Was that team-driven, and was he fined at all?
Yeah, I'm not ready to talk about that right now. What I will say is we gave the guys a day off yesterday to come out here today and be energized. And once again, we fully expect every player to come out here and participate and get better.
You keep things in-house. There was a report yesterday that there had been a contract offered, and his Twitter account, which he says he does or does not run, immediately disputed that and said, "You're trying to make me look bad again." Is that something that's been addressed? Because it seems like that keeps pushing things into the forefront again.
Yeah, for me and for Elliott as well. Look, those are internal conversations. And, once again, we always think about these as long-term relationships. Whether we sign a player to an extension, whether we sign a player off the street, whether we release a player, these are long-term relationships. And that's something that I've always taken great pride in. All of those things aside, I mean, look, at some point in time, you'll talk to Matthew. But right now, we just want to keep that in-house from our perspective.
What about with Devon Godchaux? What went into the team's decision to give him a new contract?
Well, the thing about Godchaux, he's a huge piece of what we do. It's never at least for me, it has never been just a clean process of, all right, you want a deal? Here's a deal. All right, we're done. And so this was a little bit more extensive, but I'm happy to have him here. I'm happy to have Devon here happy, right, and ready to go. So it's good.
Did the way he's carried himself in training camp have to do it all with getting that deal done, where he's out here participating every day, even though he's unhappy with that contract?
Yeah, that is our philosophy. And once again, this isn't unique to the New England Patriots as far as guys wanting a new contract. But he handled it like a professional in the classroom and out here on the field. He was out here in full pads, participating in everything. And that definitely helps.
I know it's not exactly a one-for-one exchange, but did Christian's situation play into maybe a sense of urgency when it came to getting Devon?
Honestly, those are two different type of players. The one thing about having DG back, it does provide some stability up front. Now, in saying that, by committee, we'll have to try to replace the production of Christian. And honestly, just talking about Christian, I've had a couple of conversations with him. He's in good spirits. It's one of those things that you really can't control, but when he's ready to go, he'll be here.
Is there any anticipation that he will be ready to go this season at all, or?
Honestly, I'm not sure. I'll leave that to the medical professionals. I'm really not sure. I'm just happy that he's doing better.
On Jalen Polk, what have you observed from him?
Yeah, so I'll tell you this. I've been a huge fan of Polk, since scouting all those other players, and he's just one of those guys. Like when he puts the pads on, he's that much better. He does the dirty work. He also can run, great routes, has great hands. He's one of those just all-around players that you want to build your team around. And I would also say he does flash some leadership ability, which I definitely appreciate.
How much do you appreciate guys, from your perspective, that keep showing up on film every day when you go back and look at the practice film?
Yeah, there are definitely guys that are showing up in really, two phases. Like, let's count special teams as well. And it's good to see those guys get better. And I told you guys this during my presser that I'm in the business of developing good men before good players. But if we want to win games, we have to have good players. And it's exciting to see guys like Ox take that step forward. Those guys are doing a good job just getting better and contributing.
You said earlier in camp about Drake, there'll be ups and downs, and it felt like the first 2 days of pads there were some, a little bit of a roller coaster. The question is, what did you learn about Drake, after those two practices?
Let's rewind a little bit. And, I got this feeling when we met with Drake in Carolina, just his overall mental toughness and competitiveness, and he understands that it's not always going to be clean. I will say this: he's handled it very well. I know that the players will enjoy working with him, and he's a competitor.
Coach, when it comes to captains, have you decided how you'll go about doing that, or just sort of the same way it's been done?
I think it's always important to allow their peers to vote on captains. I don't want anything to do with it. I know him in my head, who I think the leaders of the team are. Hopefully that marries up with what the players say, but I think the peers should have the opportunity to vote on their captains. One thing I will say on that, I've never been a huge fan of having 10 captains or 8 captains or anything like that. I don't know what that number looks like, but it'll be up to the players.
Jerod, just a more all-encompassing question. You're now starting your second week here of training camp. Do you feel like your team is where you want them to be right now?
100%. Look, and we have to realize we have to get better each and every day. Even when we go through the regular season, where we are week 1 should not be where we are in week 8, and that's the approach that we're taking.
Going back to Drake, you see us up here, or maybe you don't, but we're charting every pass, every completion, every incompletion. I mean, is it fair to say just that, he is battling through a little bit here, a couple days that maybe were tough for him?
I would say all the rookies are battling through things. It's a different scheme. It's a different, state for, there's just so much change for these guys. But what you want to see as those guys, go through adversity, you want to see them handle it the right way. You don't want to see the explosions on the sideline. You don't want to see any of that. It's all about the next page and turning the page, and that's what happened.
Sean does have a main question. There's been a lot of talk, because maybe some of these struggles early on. What would be your message to people just about maybe those early struggles? Because he is a rookie.
Yeah, look, people are going to have their opinions. I would say the opinions inside of the 4 walls matter most. And I would say the people inside the 4 walls know what they're talking about. And so you can take that for what it is. Look, we all support Drake. We all know what it's like to be a rookie in this league. Not you guys, obviously, but I do. Right? I know what it's like to be a rookie, and it's not all peaches and cream. You probably remember this. San Francisco, my rookie year, I got benched on 3rd down. I only played early downs because I just wasn't ready. And that was like week 10, right? It was like week 10, week 11. But it was a wake-up call for me to get benched, and from there on, I was rookie of the year. Still got benched. So whatever we want to talk about with Drake, there will be ups and downs, and hopefully it ends on up.
Final question, guys.
Did you ever consider giving Drake some reps with the top offensive grouping that Jacoby's been with, just to see what he can do with those guys?
Like you guys said, it's the second week of training camp. We have a game here a week from now. He'll have an opportunity to go out there and participate with, if you want to call them the ones, but we mix and match. All right. Thanks, guys. I thought you guys were going to be harder than that. Tougher. I was
When someone accidentally threw away the school play costumes,
oh no!
Replacements were shipped with FedEx. And with picture proof of delivery, everyone could focus on the perfect opening night. FedEx, where now meets next. For residential delivery only.
And now, great moments in history.
No one was worse than Big Head.
You're right. He was.
That's
true. He was. Big Head also didn't wait till the break. Right.
What he just
as soon as the food arrived, he
Deep
would
throat
just
us
shut
up.
his microphone off, move it away, and start eating.
But I mean, seriously.
Yeah. He'd be
would
done
just
before the break
eat
started.
A sub whole.
Yeah,
Right.
just
He'd
actually
throat it
be
right down.
mid-sentence in an argument with Fred, and if the producer would come in with the food, he would stop what he was doing.
Yeah.
Yep.
He would be arguing, passionately about something, and it would just drop everything, and Fred'd be like, "Oh, you
We
can't
used
even
to have
finish
the
thought."
producer go down because they'd have the media meal, so just make us a plate. So he'd come back with maybe 6 or 7 sandwiches, and the moment he put it down on the table,
Andy would
Big
take
Head
4
would
of them.
just boom,
Yeah.
just jump on
High
it.
metabolism guy, huh? Just always eating.
sucked
Is he
that
always
bone
eating
dry.
kind of guy?
No, but he has
He's
to,
always eating, but he's
he has
always
to work
working
out a lot.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
That's
If he ever slows down in his workout, he's going to balloon. The rest of his body will catch up to his head.
That's another great moment from
All right, back here on Patriots Unfiltered, 855-PATS-500 is the Ace Ticket hotline. Web radio at patriots.com is the email address. No more food.
Well, you changed the studio. It's not conducive for it.
Oh, stop it with your just eat the food. Eat food.
I ate my lunch.
Yeah. Evan ate.
He went over there and ate. You stood up.
I did a grab and go before I came down.
Oh, where did you get a grab and go?
I just ran through the DraftKings thing and grabbed a couple
playing with fire.
mini chicken salad sandwiches. I was so fast they didn't even see me.
Did you wait
Pays
30
to be at the
minutes?
executive level.
I went so fast.
What'd you say?
Did you wait 30 minutes?
No, I figured if I
before swimming,
I figured I figured if I kept moving, no one would catch me.
Yeah, it's like swimming.
Yeah.
You know. You have to wait 30 minutes.
You been watching some swimming? You watching any swimming last night?
I've been watching a lot of it.
Yeah.
I actually love the swimming. That's I think I've decided is my favorite
Yeah,
part.
those swimmers against Ledecky are still swimming.
Oh,
yeah.
But can you imagine, she has the 20 fastest times ever recorded
insane.
in the 1500.
Yeah.
Like her 20th best day is better than anyone's ever done it.
Yeah. Her lungs must be like
incredible.
like
shoulder.
different. Like
She's a big smoker.
Oh, really?
Cigarettes.
Yeah. Maybe that
Right.
helps. I don't know.
Set the
Menthol?
world record. Just light them up. Yeah.
Yeah, Simone
that's-
Biles
that's
also just
dominance.
won another gold medal, just like literally just
Yeah.
now.
Who
And
did?
Simone Biles.
Oh, Simone Biles.
You're
And
spoiling my stories tonight.
Yeah.
In the all around.
All around. Oh.
Yep.
He's spoiling my stories.
Yeah. Have you watched Gold Zone yet?
No.
Oh, you gotta. I was watching. It
I've been
yesterday.
watching a little. Like I watch every night a little bit. I know mostly when I'm watching what what the results were, but they're still fun to watch.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you watch like the night, the
yeah,
whole
they have
package.
the package.
one.
Well,
They
saw-
feature certain things at
Yeah,
night.
yeah.
Yeah.
I saw North Korea women's one like a sink diving thing, and that was like the first time that I was like, I didn't even realize North Korea was in the Olympics. Like, it was their first diving medal.
It was North Korea?
North Korea.
Oh, I
Yeah.
didn't know that either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I watched a decent amount yesterday. and watched the basketball game, obviously, and it was good. Good stuff.
Let's see. Joey from I think Texas writes in. Yeah, he is.
How you doing?
He says, "Let's hope Drake May isn't a 2024 draft mistake.
Oh.
Brissett, Zappi,
Weak.
and Milton are not franchise quarterbacks, and let's hope Drake turns it around soon." He's got "soon" in capital letters. We
Gotta
need
turn it
great
around.
football back in New England.
Need better practices.
I got one guy saying that the two practices the next 2 days are make or break, and now we got a listener saying
Says it,
we
Paul.
need to turn this crap around soon.
It's not a good practice on Saturday, Paul. I'm out. Just gonna go do something else.
I think Evan and I should just spend the whole practice on Saturday needling you. Like, what do you think,
Dude,
Mike?
good enough.
Not
Good enough
good.
for you.
Incomplete pass there,
Not
Mike.
good. Do you see that?
I guess,
Not good.
like selfishly though, for me, like these are the last couple probably super fun practices, the joint practice. But otherwise, we don't get to watch practice again. Like this is kind of it, And those ones next week we're gonna be a little ramped down. So
we get the whole Eagles week too.
Yeah, well, one practice. Like,
No,
right?
it's multiple that week.
What? One?
There's two. It's Monday, Tuesday.
Yeah.
But
That's
we're
it.
only watching one practice, right? Only
No,
watching
we
No,
get
one
Monday,
joint
Tuesday
practice.
we get.
And then I think we might get.
My guess is after the Eagles game, leading into the Washington game,
we'll get
practices that we can see.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. That
Won't be open to the public.
Right, because those are like when we came back from Green Bay last year,
Yeah,
and
typical.
those Tennessee practices that didn't happen, but they happened here. The media gets to go to those, but they're closed to the public. But we still got to watch those practices, so you get to watch all the way through the third preseason game.
So one thing that, and I'm not a huge we got to go to practice. I'm, capital J journalist. I demand my presence. But it is kind of lousy that you have a third overall pick quarterback who probably isn't going to start at least right away, and you don't get a chance to watch practice once the preseason ends to sort of see how he's developing. Do you watch him in week 8 and say, wow, he's much better than he was in training camp? You don't get to see that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do wonder, and this is coming from somebody that this is my bread and butter training camp, but I do wonder if it's if we need to be there at every single practice this time of year. I just don't know if it necessarily does.
I think you do.
I don't know if it necessarily is great for the team. Yeah.
Oh, listen, if I was the coaches, I'd rather have no one at the
I totally understand why coaches don't want
Yeah.
media
But it would be
at
okay to
practice.
see in pockets, but what happens is that you end up going on this training camp roller coaster of one day's good, one day's bad, one day's good, one day's bad, and none of it really means anything. Whereas in OTAs and stuff where we just get the one snapshot here, one snapshot there, you don't necessarily see what Paul's talking about, the progress, but then you come back a week later and it's oh, he looks a little better.
But if you look
today.
at it from the league standpoint, look at all the volume of content that comes out from each team, each reporter throughout training camp because they've got the access.
Yeah.
If we
from
didn't-
a professional standpoint,
out
it's
of sight,
awesome.
out of mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, and every sport, does it.
Yeah.
Every sport allows you to cover the preseason.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, that reminds me. You said the capital J journalism. It reminded me of a story that came out. And we've talked about it before, but I guess the NFLPA is now coming up with proposals about no reporters in the locker room. I mean, we've talked about that before.
Oh, really?
They're trying to take the reporters out of the locker room
and,
altogether?
come up with another way to do those interviews, but just not in the locker room.
Happy hour.
After
We do
games.
happy hour.
The
team. Some drinks.
Yeah.
I'm
surprised it hasn't happened yet. To be honest.
I agree with the privacy aspect of it, but when you go in the locker room, on a Wednesday, and you just kind of get to bop around and like check in with 4 or 5 players. It's not necessarily even like an on-the-record interview, but that's just like how you start to get to know the guys, so that when it comes to asking questions on the record, you're not asking a stranger, the question. And I wonder how you recreate that without being in the locker room.
Yeah, I think during the week to me, during the week is more problematic, because that's when, like you said, you form those relationships. Mm-hmm. After game, maybe instead of the players going right to the locker room, you have, a 15-minute period after the game where the players have to stay out of the field, and you do them right there.
Well, I will say that one of the things, the way they do training camp now, like they make, a half dozen guys available every day, and they put them at the podiums, is a tough way to cover,
Thank
practice.
you, COVID.
It's a tough way to do it. The way, I used to like the old way is they would have you ask them who you want, and you would put it. But you also could talk to a player coming off the field. You could go up to a guy and say, "Hey, David Andrews, you got a second?" And if he didn't want to talk, he would say no. Just like in the locker room, if you went up to a guy at his locker and asked him if he had a minute, he might say no. I'll catch you tomorrow or whatever. I like that better because I don't really necessarily feel like you get anything out of anybody when there's 50 of his closest friends, asking questions. Like, if you're going to talk to someone and get anything out of them, you got to have a small group. You got to have the ability to do it on your own.
Yeah, but I've often said, like, I kind of think the locker room should be their sanctuary, and, and we should have another way of talking.
I wouldn't be opposed to that, but there's got to be some kind of way that you have a chance to talk to anybody you want, not just the guys they make available.
And informally, like
that's what I think. You got to force them to hang out with you. It's really
because like to Paul's point, and I know most people are listening to this, like
they don't care.
I'm sorry that your job is not as fun as it used to be, but to Paul's point, like when you used to be able to just pull guys coming off the field, like it wasn't like you weren't walking up to Tom Brady and saying, hey, like what did you, how was practice today? But it was some of the guys usually that were like fighting for roster spots or on the bubble or rookies or whatever, and then you got an opportunity to just say, hey, what happened on this play or that play that happened in practice today? Whereas when they get up to the podium, it's like structured, and you feel a little bit more limited.
And everyone writes the same thing now off of what those whatever the good soundbite is. Everybody's like, and there it is. And
to your point, Fred, like the NFL probably loves this because you get all this glut of coverage, but it's all the same,
right?
And the NFL doesn't care because it's just the volume that they care about. Right. But I just think it's sort of unfortunate that there's nothing really. There's nothing really different.
Yeah. And you can like put in requests to talk to players, but you can put in the request before practice. So it's like, well, if so-and-so has a great practice, like that changes now who I would want to talk to after practice. Whereas if the guy I requested in the morning doesn't even practice, then that does me no good.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just thought I'd bring that up because
that's interesting.
I read that a couple days ago. Yeah.
It's just hard as it feels like no matter whatever the replacement for that is going to be a waste of the player's time in their mind, that they're going to have to go somewhere and hang out. And
I don't think they'll do it that way. I think that the result, and I understand Fred, and you and I feel just the same way about the locker room. Yeah. You and I have never felt really great about being in the locker room.
Right.
I agree with that.
But I think the result is going to be you're going to get coverage the way training camp is. They're going to make a half dozen or so players available every day. And that's what you get.
Well, then there's the other issue. Everything's about equality these days. And, as let's just say women's hockey and women's soccer, pro soccer becomes big. More people will start covering it, and some of them will be men. Are you going to let men in their locker rooms?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Probably not.
So I did cover a women's bean pot one year, 100 years ago. And, you would stand outside the locker room and you have to bring players out to you. You do not go in the locker room.
And there's a lot of athletes who say, why is that any different? Why do I have to, make sure that I'm dressed or, after a game? Like, so I get it.
Yeah.
A lot of them just don't care.
A lot of them
butt naked,
kind of proud of. Yeah, I would be too. I'd never put my shirt on if I looked like that. Alex in Somerset.
It's not the shirt I'm worried about.
Oh.
Dan Skipper, I'm looking at you.
Patriots missiles. Alex in Somerset, watching Polk's highlights in college, he reminded me a lot of Brandon LaFell. Big, doesn't create a ton of separation, but seemingly a clutch player. Do you guys see any similarities in his game to LaFell? And if he does end up having a career that mirrors LaFell, would you be happy with that?
I see some similarities, and you know,
I do think
someone in the know-it-all tent actually made that comparison. I do see some similarities in the.
I don't remember
skills.
with Brandon. I was a little young at that point,
Outside.
but he was an outside guy, right?
Yep.
He was
Yeah,
more of an outside guy than this, but like sort of like a good drive starter kind of guy.
Right.
Like, we'll go hard play action on 1st and 10 from our 20, and
Run an
he's
in
gonna
cut to
he's
Brandon
gonna
LaFell.
run a quick out or a quick in for 11.
Yep.
Right.
And here we go, drive starter.
Right. Yeah, I remember
That was
those
Brandon
types of
LaFell.
plays,
Yeah.
and then obviously the play against Baltimore, in the playoffs. But
Mhm.
like those were outside, like those are perimeter.
He was more of an outside guy. Than
yeah.
Polk,
That
no
first
doubt.
touchdown against Seattle in Super Bowl 49. That's,
Oh, yeah.
you know,
That
that's
one's
kind
a
of
good one, too.
But I see the similarities. I see what you're saying, but I think Polk is going to be more of an interior guy, and I think the hope is that he just has a little bit more wiggle than LaFell, kind of tall, stiff. I mean, I'm not saying that Polk isn't a little stiff too, but
Yeah, I would be disappointed if that's all he ends up being.
no, me too, for sure.
Ready for some trivia?
Oh,
Okay.
love it.
Enrique,
That would be wonderful.
Enrique from Monterey has some, and looks like these are mostly. A lot of them have to do with playoffs or Super Bowl, but not all of them.
Okay.
Anyway, first one. There are only, and don't look, Deuce.
I'm not looking.
Don't even look at 'em.
There are only 3 teams that have reached the Super Bowl 3 years in a row. Buffalo and New England are 2 of those. Who's the other one?
Miami.
Correct. Wow. 71, 72,
6, 7, 8.
73.
Oh, it's
Yep.
before my time.
Since 1936, the first ever draft.
Before my time too, but you just kind of know.
No,
Yeah, I don't know if you guys know, but
it's
in
not.
1776,
Before my time.
we won our independence.
200 years before my time.
Okay, I wasn't there. I wasn't born.
You weren't Hamilton. You
But-
weren't in the room.
But people told
Shocking,
us.
actually.
People have read about it.
Yeah. Since 1936, the first ever draft, there are only 3 teams that have never had the worst record in the NFL, thus never had pick number 1 overall. Which are
Oh,
Green
Pittsburgh.
Bay.
Pittsburgh's one of them, I
they?
think.
Green Bay is incorrect.
Oh,
Pittsburgh, right?
I think Terry Bradshaw was the
Pittsburgh
first
is
overall
incorrect.
pick.
Damn.
3 teams have never had the
Dallas?
worst record in the NFL. Well, you can just throw
Am I
out
out?
names, but if
I
you
have
don't
no
know.
idea.
Baltimore, Seattle, and Denver.
Seattle was
It's believable.
Okay.
Seattle's a little surprising. They haven't been around that
Rick
long.
Meyer.
right?
Well, that's the thing. They haven't been around long
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah, Rick Meyer was 2.
3. Who was the last black place kicker in the NFL?
Oh, the guy from the Raiders.
No, it's a punter.
Donald
Oh, right.
Igwebuike.
That is correct. Tampa
Oh
Bay,
my God! I just threw that out there.
1989. 1989.
Wow.
Yeah, the
before
the
Elvis
punter. The punter.
2 more.
Give it to me right there.
Marquise. Something.
Marquise
2 more.
something.
What is the
Reggie
only
Roby?
NFL team in history to get to the
Tuiasosopo.
playoffs 7 consecutive years without reaching the conference championship game?
Oh, jeez.
Someone made the playoffs 7 consecutive years without reaching the championship.
That's right.
Oh.
I do not know.
I'll give you a hint.
I'm going to need a hint.
The name of the team no longer exists.
Oh.
Oilers.
That's correct.
Oh,
87
Warren
through
Moon.
93.
And Warren Moon
Little
years.
Warren
Yeah,
Moon.
right. Run and shoot.
Finally, what
Buddy
was the
Ryan
last
fighting.
time 2 teams that played each other in the Super Bowl was their first appearance for both teams? So 2 teams, and it was their first appearance that played each other.
These are really good questions.
These are deep.
They're hard. This is like
Yeah.
real
So is this
trivia.
like, when was the last time? So like,
Last time, the last time.
right, okay.
Because obviously when the Super Bowl started,
Right.
everybody. Yeah.
Right.
The last time.
Baltimore in 2000?
I think you got to go back further. Go back further. The last time.
Chicago, New England.
Yeah, that's correct. Paul, ding, ding, ding.
Wow.
Got it, 1985.
Good questions,
Yeah.
Enrique.
Yeah. So
In
there-
England.
There's some trivia. Good stuff, Enrique. Thank you.
That was the last
was hard.
time both teams made their first appearance. Wow, that's a long time ago. 85.
Yeah.
Super Bowl 31? Is that what it was?
Yeah.
No, it was.
And it had to be both teams.
No,
you know?
20.
No, it was 20.
20.
It's my my senior year of high school. Bruh.
So you were there for that one.
I was there for that one. I was there for that one, and I was all in.
Oh,
I was
I'm sure
all
you
in.
were. We squished the fish.
I was all in too,
and the fumble on the first play of the game.
I thought we were gonna do it.
3-zip, right?
And they never scored again.
No, it was so
56-10, right?
46.
46.
So sad.
I just still remember the energy. I mean, even as a kid, I was like 10 years old, but it was just the whole town was like crazy for the Patriots. They made like a music video. Like, I don't know how my dad got it. Might have been through Reebok, but it was like a touchy-feely to That's What Friends Are For, and it was all kinds of like slow motion locker room footage of like, you know, we made the AFC championship.
It was
game
the
kind
era
stuff
of
like
the
that.
cheesy videos.
Yeah.
The
like
New
that
England, the
Patriots and we're the best in the AFC.
I'm so glad we've come. We've
I
come
was just
way
thinking,
further
like,
than
getting
that.
Felger and Maz to do that. No, we're gonna all sing a song as the media for the team going to the Super Bowl. And I'm like,
I'm very glad that we have
Super
6
Bowl
banners
shuffle by
hanging
the
in
Bears
this.
was
Oh, that was good.
Like back then we thought of
Yeah.
it. Now you look at it.
Oh
it's
no,
like,
that
well,
was
that's
good. I mean, it was
embarrassing.
cheesy video.
Oh yeah,
but the song was
that
good.
would have gone viral today. That would have been like a TikTok like craze, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's like, "Oh, you got to do the Super Bowl shuffle, right?" You know.
Get a little
They're ahead of their time.
little NFL news. Justin Herbert, plantar fascia in his foot.
Oh, that's a long one,
that's
right?
a big injury.
Yeah.
Did we mention the defensive lineman that we signed on the air? Mike Purcell.
No,
Yeah.
not yet. We signed Mike Purcell.
Yeah, veteran guy. Been
According
around-
to his
been around
agency?
the
Big
league.
dog. I mean, I just say I'm surprised. I thought when you said defensive lineman, I anticipated maybe a lighter guy, 290, a kind of upfield, you know, Barmore-esque. Now that you've secured Godchaux, but he's more like a big fatty like Godchaux. You know,
Yeah.
the big
Mike
space
Purcell.
eaters and, yeah.
That's rude.
Who spent,
I
I guess,
mean, I
some
meant that in a
time.
loving way, big fatty. Like
Would
I
you
love
say
him.
2017?
Yeah, on the practice
Yeah.
squad.
On the
here.
practice squad
Yeah.
here?
He's been kind of
Yeah.
kicking around. I think he was with Denver last year.
Yeah, I wonder if like in their base front. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
doing this yesterday when they re-signed they extended Godchaux. You have Godchaux at the nose, you have Dietrich Wise at one of the 3-4 ends, and then Barmore would have been at the other spot. And now it's like, is it Keon White? He's probably a little undersized for that. Is it Jeremiah Farms?
Yeah,
like
Watts.
Watts, Aquale. Maybe this is one of those guys that's like more like a Lawrence guy that can
Plantar
come in.
fascia. So there it is. There it starts. Like, Patriots play the Chargers.
Yeah,
There's one backup.
Oh shoot! You said Justin Herbert. I just,
Herbo.
for some reason I went in my head Justin Fields for some reason.
No,
and not
Herbert,
Justin
but
Herbert.
they're saying
no.
that he should be ready for. They're going to shut him down, obviously, and he should be ready for the start of regular season. But that's typically an injury
That's a tough
lingers. Yeah, that's a tough one.
Now, is that like something that kind of develops, or is that a sudden traumatic?
It's a
kinda
stress.
Like,
it's a stress injury. Yeah.
That's what Achilles. Where is
No,
it?
it's in your foot, like in the inside of your foot, usually.
Yeah.
Oh, inside of the foot.
Usually, but I think it can be
The hoof.
Yeah.
The hoof.
The hoof.
I'm not a doctor.
It's kind
That's
of like
probably
what I did
wrong.
when I fell down the stairs.
You like that one too, huh, Matt?
Let's get back to the Ace Ticket Hotline, 855-PASS-500. Anthony's in Toronto. What's up, Anthony?
Hey, guys. Long-time listener. Like, third-time caller, I think. Been listening
Nice.
since
Okay,
2010.
1, 2, 3. Yeah.
Just wanted to say thank you and appreciate you guys. You guys absolutely kill it. I feel like you don't get enough recognition, so
Yeah.
appreciate
Well, that's
it.
true.
Or money. Yep.
Obviously, this show's changed a lot, going from Andy and Eric and, Kevin in the booth to the team now, which is significantly better. Less rated R, one of the accent off and that kind of thing. So just wanted to say appreciate you guys. And quick question. Obviously, we kind of have like our top 4 receivers, Bourne, Baker, Polk, and Douglas are going to make the roster. And then it looks like we're probably going to keep 6. So of the other 3 guys, who right now, based off training camp, do you guys think we're going to keep out of Juju, Osborne, and then Taekwon?
Man, I keep forgetting about it.
Well, I think Osborne's probably going to
Anthony.
stay. Although I don't
Yep.
think he's had a great camp, but I think he'll stay. Thornton is a guy that I think has been showing up more so than Booty, Rager, Juju. I think Thornton is showing up more than those guys, and I think I kind of look at that group as maybe fighting for a spot or two.
Yeah, I'd see those 3 guys right now. For me, it's Osborne, Rager, and Thornton as like the last 3 for 2 spots. And I think Juju's
Since
done.
everything's new, when you're making those decisions, do you ask the quarterback, Brissett and May, like who do you, like,
Maybe.
You probably kind of
do you get their input?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I think that with
Or is that
Osborne,
dangerous?
probably a little bit, especially for Drake, because he's probably going to favor the young guys. I like the rookies. I like the guys that have been here with me since May. But I think that the KJ Osborne to me is probably going to make the team, and you got to have some experience in that room.
Yeah.
If you go all young, then it's really just Kendrick Bourne. That's the one veteran. And early on in the season, as much as we all want to see Polk and Baker, there's a chance that they might roll, Bourne, if he's healthy, Osborne, Pop, and ease the rookies into it a little bit more. So I'd say him, and right now Taekwon. I think Taekwon has been better, but it depends on how much they put stock into the return game. Like if they feel like Rager's return ability is more important, then it could be him.
See, I'm just interested in Booty and Rager because I mix them up a lot. Just when you quick glance, I'm like, is that Booty or Rager? They look kind of similar to me. They play both on the outside. I think they both had a couple moments, but they seem to be getting a lot of reps. That's that they're getting a long look at both of those guys. I think guys like Booty, though, need to make some plays here coming up over the next couple of weeks.
Let's see. Corey writes in. He says, do you guys see Matt Judon signing a multi-million-dollar contract with the team when it's all said and done?
No. I think 1 year. I think to give him a sweetener this year, I think that's a great question, though. It's did they go into next year? I think we're all of the mind of, pay him this year, and then next year you move on. I don't really want to do the void years and all that stuff. I don't see a multi-million-dollar, multi-year extension where it makes Matthew Judon a Patriot for 4 years. I don't see that. It's 1 or 2 years, I think.
Yeah, and I don't mind the void year stuff. I just don't think they'll do it. I don't think they need to do it. I think he just needs more money for this year.
Yeah, I'd rather tack on real years to it that gives you team control to maybe trade him at some point.
What if that's the sticking point? What if he wants a little longer-term security?
I'd probably sign him for 1 more year. If they want to do, just to have that control where, trade deadline, offseason, whatever, if they do want to then look to move him, then they have some term with him to be able to
Makes
get
him a little
something
easier
back.
to move, right?
Yeah.
Jasper in Maine, first off, just want to thank Paul for helping me become a better person.
All right, that's starting to get a
Inside
little tired now.
So my silly off-season question is, who do you think on the roster, or former player as well, is the best example of nominative determinism? That is, who has a name that sounds perfect for the position they play? For example, Hightower had a perfect linebacker name. So who's
Mike Quick.
Mike Quick.
Wide receiver.
Right.
Rodney Harrison.
I don't know if there's an example of that.
Perfect name.
Anybody have a name that's
Reggie Corner?
Oh, this guy must be a running back or whatever.
I kind of feel like Vince Wilfork because a forklift he was this big gigantic guy in the middle of the defense. I always felt like Wilfork was fitting that he was a big strong dude.
Yeah.
But I don't have a great one for that.
John Hanna. You spell the same way frontwards as backwards, and just solid player.
It's a palindrome.
Hog Hanna.
It's a palindrome. That made him good.
I don't know. Who else?
How many other players in the league are palindromes, Paul?
If Amir Speed had made it. Amir Speed, if he had made it.
He's on the Colts.
Nowadays, if you're a quarterback that has a lot of swagger and your name is Joe, that makes sense.
Cool.
Joe Montana,
Joe
Joe Namath, Joe Burrow. That's a cool quarterback name.
We're putting Joe Burrow in
What do
the
you say,
Joe Montana conversation.
What?
The hatred of Joe Burrow is just
It's the blonde hair. It's the Eminem thing.
It oozes.
It's maybe do something before we crown him.
Maybe do something.
Herbert.
Yeah,
That's unbelievable.
just saying.
But no one else comes to mind? No?
For this team?
Yeah, for this team.
Oh.
I don't know. We don't have any...
Yeah.
The coolest name on the roster is Steel Chambers.
Steel Chambers.
Definitely. I don't know if he's going to make the team.
Thinking of Cole Strange, that's a pretty good name. But do you think Cole Strange has any chance of getting his job back?
Yes, but it's
if he was healthy?
Yeah, just coming up. He's not. He's going to be out for a while. He's going to come mid-season. You think he can?
It might be a lost year for
supplant.
him from a physical standpoint, but I think he'd have every opportunity to.
Yeah.
I think there's a chance that if he came back and was at full strength, that Onwenu would go to right tackle, and I guess maybe that
Slide City maybe
that would create that. But I feel pretty good about City, David Andrews, and Onwenu on the inside, and I almost don't want to mess with it.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't know where Cole Strange would fit in, but if they just wanted to get him back on the field because they used the first-round pick on him a couple years ago and that whole thing, I would assume that would be the configuration to make it work. You're not going to put any of those guys on the bench unless they're not playing. City's not playing well, which I don't think is going to happen.
His offensive line, one of the hardest positions to decide that in season though, where you don't really have like real live competition to evaluate guys? Like, you know what I mean? To evaluate guard play solely off of in-season practices, just
you'd have to be like, this
challenging.
is a guy that we're putting him back in.
Yeah,
like it's one of those
obvious.
things.
Like,
Like,
he was different.
When Logan Mankins held out that year and he missed the first 9 games, I mean, he didn't miss a snap when he was eligible to return. Remember when he came back?
Yeah.
He immediately went in the lineup.
Yep.
But that's
That's
I'm
Logan
not telling
Mankins.
you Cole Strange is Logan Mankins. Like,
well, it's just interesting because Cole Strange doesn't really have great size. You know, I mean, he certainly moves like pretty well, and he's an athletic guy. But you know, just
he might be a better fit
within practice, maybe.
Rob's in South Carolina. He's on the Ace Ticket Hotline. What's up, Rob?
Good afternoon, everybody. How are you doing?
Good.
Hey, Rob.
Good. Paul, this is kind of for you. So, not trying to start an argument, just want to understand. I don't think I've heard you explain why you'd rather address quarterback first and then the rest of the roster. Because personally, I thought May was a mistake this year. I thought they should have gone tackle at receiver and then gone for quarterback later. Why do you think the opposite is true? And I'll take it off air. Thank you.
Okay.
yeah, I mean, it's certainly to each his own.
Well,
I don't necessarily think like you need to get the quarterback first. I'm not anti get the quarterback first. A lot of people are. They don't think, there was an argument to be made throughout this pre-draft process this year that they don't have the roster to support a young quarterback, so don't waste your time. If you don't think Drake May is good enough for the 3rd overall pick, by all means, take a wide receiver, take a tackle. If you do think he's good enough for the 3rd overall pick, I think you need to take the quarterback. Yeah. I felt May was good enough.
Yeah.
But if Elliott Wolf didn't think he was good enough, then he made a mistake.
Right.
Right? Like, I don't think it's because of philosophy. Like,
You took him
need
because
one
you
over
think
the
he's
other.
worth the pick and he's going to be good.
I think quarterback is so hard, and this is why I don't like the idea of just blanket statement. He needs to sit for a year, maybe 2. Like, I think you need to play to find out if you can play. Yeah. Find out how you develop, how long it's going to take, and figure out what you need to do around him and suit his skill set, as opposed to we're going to take a tackle with a 3rd overall pick. Okay, so now we have Joe Thomas in place, and who knows when we're going to be in position to get, maybe next year you have another top 5 pick, but there's no quarterback worth taking in the top 5.
Right.
That's probably what's going to happen.
And then all of a sudden we're 3 years out from this rebuilding process, and we still don't have a quarterback.
Right.
And that's sort of why. To me, it's all dependent on the players available. What was the year that Kenny Pickett was? 22?
Yeah. 22. Yeah.
If there was that year, I would have been right on board with the caller. I would have said, take Marvin Harrison. Take Joe Alt.
Especially, Paul, like some of the, I think you did your study there of just the quarterbacks that get taken in the top 5. And if you have a chance in a year where there are 3 quarterbacks worthy of the top 3 picks, that you kind of have to take it. And I go back to watching the Giants in Hard Knocks where you could see how much they were like, we're going to kind of give Daniel Jones another chance. But if we could get to Drake May, we'd probably just go get him rather than taking Neighbors and
right. And I like again, if it was a year like 22 when there weren't really first round quarterback values, I would never say like you got to take a quarterback because you got to get the quarterback first. Right. I would say find the best player and take him, and then you got to keep hoping.
That's the hardest thing. I mean,
but I think they had a guy that was worth the pick. We'll see. Maybe I'm wrong.
But then you look at 2021 and it feels like that's the hardest possible scenario for you to be in terms of making this decision, because you had a guy in Mac Jones that was he dynamic and like first round talent dripping all over? Not really, but he was the 5th guy, and that was where they were, and that was who they kind of needed, and that's what and so it's hard to say no
but
on
I've
May.
never heard Paul say you always have to take the quarterback first.
No. I would rather have the quarterback first. I have said that.
Well, if the quarterback's there, you take him.
Right. And that's why I would say it. But like again, I wouldn't just say take Jake Locker because you got to have a quarterback first.
Right.
I think Drake May was worth that selection.
Right.
Yeah.
Again, it's about evaluation.
I also think your point about looking into future drafts, and I know the argument against it is always like Jaden Daniels, like he comes out of nowhere, but if you look at next year's quarterback class, you'd be lucky to have one prospect that's as good as Caleb, Judon Daniels, and Drake May were as prospects in this class. And that's one quarterback at the very, very tippy top that every team that needs a quarterback is going to want.
Yep.
So it's one of those situations where you also have to look at the market and sort of what's going to be available to you. I guess the only like counter to that would be if they had gone into 2025 and traded the pick for a veteran. You know, like I guess you could do it that way, but you know, I when the quarterback's there, that's just business. Like you don't mess around and start taking tackles or trading down.
Sweet Kid writes in, Fred, I just wanted you to know that I love you. That Hannah reference made no sense, but you looked at Paul directly and let that nonsense come out anyway.
It was beautiful.
Palindrome.
It's a palindrome. He's a good player.
I remember the first time I heard race car was a palindrome, blew my mind. I was like, oh, yeah.
Race car. Yeah. Okay.
It's a good one.
Let's see. Dorian writes in, was watching Colin today. I assume he means Colin Cowherd. And the headline was, Patriots are worried about quarterback room. Has Drake been that bad? To me, I'm thinking 2 practices and the sports media already deeming Patriots an offensive disaster confirms they couldn't wait for us to be bad post-dynasty. They love dumping on us. Patriots versus the world.
Oh, it was 7 practices, but still the point is
I don't necessarily know if it's all that, but Patriots worried about quarterback room sounds like it's coming from inside the building.
The call is coming from inside the house.
And nobody inside the building, there's not been a report from anybody saying a source is telling me that they're worried about where Drake May is at. It's us in the know-it-all tent and Ramp that are telling you that he's had some difficult practices. And so when he says the Patriots are worried, that's very misleading from Colin Cowherd.
It is.
The Patriots are not worried about anything.
Who are the Patriots?
We might be worried because that's what we do.
Right.
I'm worried.
All right. Well, maybe he watches the show. All right. We're going to wrap up a little early. Thanks for watching. So today's Thursday, practice tomorrow. So Patriots.com, practice Saturday. Make sure Patriots.com and social. Team will be off on Sunday.
Correct.
And then back at it on Monday.
And then training camp's over, according to Deuce.
Well,
yeah.
All right.
100%.
Just
so
forgot the rest of the days.
We will talk to you on this show next Tuesday. But, of course, you'll be having the post-practice podcasts and all that stuff. So plenty of content coming your way. Thanks for watching.
Thank you for downloading this podcast. Subscribe on Apple, Google Play, and everywhere else you listen. Like the show? Please rate and review us. Listener comments and ratings help keep us high in the podcast rankings so new listeners can find us. Be sure to check Patriots.com for more news and more podcasts.
The world's original podcast.